or if education decisions should be made by people on the ground, like teachers. And of course, on the merits of this law itself, do we really need to learn cursive and memorize math anymore when just about everybody in America has access to a phone with massive computing power, and AI will take over writing and calculating just about everything in 3 weeks? 877-301-8970. By the way, I mean, you can discuss either or both things you want. The cursive thing, you know, it's another patriotic, conservative kind of thing, you know, and it's actually going on all over the country.
That's right.
You can't read historical documents.
Constitution, Jim. The Magna Carta and the Constitution. We have to be able to read those in cursive.
When was the last time you read the Magna Carta?
Never. I've never read the Magna Carta.
So what are you talking about?
I have one of those little pocket constitutions, though.
I do too. You know who I got mine from, and I'm really proud of this? Khizr Khan.
Khizr Khan.
The man who held up his constitution at the Democratic National Convention with his wife, lost his son in Iraq, and then, of course, was trashed by you-know-who.
Well, you know that the Constitution is sort of so yesterday now,
Yeah.
Jim. I mean, we kind of gotten away from the Constitution.
No, we don't give a damn about that anymore.
Latest regime.
No, I'm serious. When was the last time you read forget the Magna Carta. When was the last time you read the Constitution?
I used to bring it to work with me.
In cursive, you
no,
read it?
No, I had the little pocket Constitution that's in handwriting.
Yeah, fine.
You know, the thing to me is, I don't really, I mean, some people say that cursive is good for brain training. I have no idea if that's true. I don't really care what they're teaching. I just don't want the government to be deciding, these legislators to be deciding the curriculum.
It's nothing to do with curriculum. It's political crap.
It should be educators.
I agree.
It should be educators, and the educators seem to be against it. So there you go.
877-301-8970. So we say two things on the table. State governments, you know, in the era where this sort of culture wars over schools is a big issue, particularly advantaging Republicans, as it did with Glenn Youngkin when he was elected governor of Virginia. And secondly, if you want to weigh in on cursive and multiplication tables. Marjorie, we had our usual pre-meeting this morning. Marjorie's bragging about how good she was at multiplication tables. And then I said to her, so what's 12 times 13? What'd you say?
They stopped at 12 times 12. They didn't go up to 13. Yeah, you had the little steps. 4 times 4, 6 times 6. You had to go up to the blackboard. Do you remember this?
I
remember this.
I do.
How'd you go up
well.
to the blackboard with a little pointer, and the teacher was standing there with the pointer, and you'd have to answer. You had to get it over in a certain amount of time. And if you didn't get it over in a certain amount of time, you didn't pass. And I remember little kids crying because they didn't pass in time. Yeah, it was terrible.
I was crying when I couldn't read the Magna Carta in cursive. That was a very sad day for me.
But you know what? I do wish they would teach in school. You've heard me say this before, Jim. I think it'd be good if they taught people grammar. I do think that would be good. Because nobody has grammar anymore. Shouldn't we? I'll say this for the French. Everybody speaks French perfectly. That's a big deal. It's kind of a country pride thing. They learn how to speak their language. We don't care about speaking English properly anymore. Nobody seems to care. And I am, Jim, like you, appalled.
You are appalled. Now, before we get to the calls, can you seriously answer well, you did answer it. The whole notion of state governments intruding into the details of what's being taught, you agree, is all political crap. They don't give a damn about the content of what a kid is learning.
I'm suspicious.
It's a political stand.
I'm suspicious for the person that wants to teach communism every year. He wants to teach communism.
Well, that's part of his, he's doing that in New Hampshire too.
Yeah, how horrible communism is. So nobody, because he maintains that the schools are turning out little communists. I don't know. I don't see many schools turning out little communists, but that is apparently a big fear up in New Hampshire, that the kids are all going to be like going over to Russia, I guess, soon, or North Korea or something like that. 877-301-8970. You know, by the way, on the cursive front, you've known me a long. I haven't written in cursive since I was like 10. I print everything in capital. Is that a male thing? But do men not do cursive? Well, I'm left-handed, so I think a lot of people left-handed people spend a lot of time practicing their writing.
You do?
You have to learn how to. It's hard to write cursive when you're left-handed, so you have to practice. I think girls may spend more time. I spend a lot of time on my signature, but you know. I think maybe you want to be able to write your signature in a cursive manner. Do you want to print your signature?
Can I ask you one last question?
What?
What's 11 times 11?
I don't know, 121?
That is very right? Nice. 877-301-8970.
Marjorie is breathing
easy
Jim's
now.
Jim's always surprised when I get the answer right.
Well, you just said you knew everything up to 12 versus 12.
Wants to fool me. Okay, you want to talk about the subjective tense?
No, I do not want to talk about it. Okay.
Didn't think you would.
Let's go to Jennifer.
You didn't take Latin,
look,
Jim.
She's in New. No, I did
From
not.
New Hampshire.
Actually.
Hi,
Wait a second. You didn't take Latin either.
I did too.
No, you didn't.
I did too. I took Latin for
Pax
3 years.
vobiscum.
Peace of
Be with
something.
you. Thank you. Jennifer, New Hampshire, you're next on Boston Public Radio. Forgot for a second. Hi. What's up, Jennifer?
Yeah. Hi. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you.
Good. I'm actually en route to Cambridge right now, but I reside in Wyndham. I have business mostly in Cambridge. But to answer the question, I am very pro cursive writing as well as mathematics, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
In terms of the cursive writing, one of the ways in which I always found I could study and help commit to memory content before a test was taking diligent notes. Printing notes is a much longer process.
Okay.
You're writing in cursive, you can take your notes faster, and by the sheer fact of writing that information, it helps commit that content to memory.
Okay, I got it. But Jennifer, I agree with that. I agree. 2 questions. One, do you think your state should be mandating that, even if you think it's a good idea to do it?
I understand what you're saying. It's a slippery slope.
It is.
I don't think they should be mandating, certain things. To me, this just seems very fundamental.
Yeah,
like
but let them decide on the. One last thing before you go, Jennifer. How much is 13 times 13?
I only went up to 12 like Marjorie.
Exactly.
Jennifer,
that's as far
thank
as you had to go.
Thank you for your call.
That's as far as you had to go. Jennifer's got a good point, though.
What was it?
I know this from being a reporter all those years. If you wrote it down in a notebook, you remembered it much more.
I totally agree.
Than if you typed it on
How many
computer.
kids, you have kids who are in their late 20s and 30s.
Yep.
When was the last time they wrote down anything as opposed to typed it?
I don't think they do much.
Well, so what, it's a nice notion from
anymore.
40 years ago. It just does, people don't write, by the way, I agree, if you write things down, I had the same experience.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to memorize
you pay attention.
But nobody writes anymore.
Because you can't write as much unless you take shorthand. You can't write as much down, so you may, the salient points you write down, you forget some of the other stuff. On the computer, you take everything down, and then it's like a transcription instead of like getting the salient points. Anyway, Mark on the road, thank you for calling.
Hello, Mark. What's up?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, 2 things. One, I think Cursive's already on its way out. My wife works in a group home with other adults, and when she leaves notes in cursive, she gets no response because nobody knows how to read.
That's pretty funny. That's actually pretty good,
Yeah.
Mark. What else?
But my main point for calling was that it's indirectly related. I'm from out in Holden, and we had a election in the school committee, and there were 2 people running for 2 seats. And one of the people running was sort of a anti, don't teach CRT and anti-diversity and equity and all that. And she was beaten, at least unofficially as of now, by a write-in candidate, which I thought maybe that's a good sign going forward that maybe we'll get away a little bit from the.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you?
And they were able to write in the candidate, Jim. That's important. How would they write in the
candidate?
candidate?
The candidate.
There was a big campaign. They gave out cards because you have to write in the address as well as the name,
Hey, Mark, generally, whenever somebody campaigns against critical race theory, like in Florida, it's not being taught to begin with. What's the story in Holden?
I don't believe it's being taught. I think it's just an overarching fear that people have. Yeah. But they did recently pass a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, and some of the people that came and spoke out against it were like, "Oh, that's socialism and communism."
Morons. You know what the other thing is? Every single person I've ever heard interviewed who is against the teaching of critical race theory, which is taught almost nowhere in high schools, when asked by an interviewer to explain what critical race theory is that they want to ban, has no ability to explain what it is because they don't even know what it is. It's just a bumper sticker.
No, they just catch words on the on the TV stations. And,
Mark, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. That's pretty good. His wife writes at a group home in cursive and nobody can read it. That's
here's a good question. Why aren't Republicans demanding a return to Roman numerals instead of Arabic numerals? That's a very good question. Are they unpatriotic or are Arabic numerals? I don't know. Point. And some people do argue, I think it's a controversial point, but some people do argue that learning cursive can assist students with dyslexia. Dyscalculia and dysgraphia. I don't even know those.
I don't know what they are.
Those last 2 ones. I know what dyslexia is.
So
mixing up the positions of the letters. So maybe that's true. Some people say it's good for brain development. I don't know if that's true. But the bigger issue to me, as the previous caller said, is I don't want legislators making decisions about people's curriculum in schools. They don't know anything about it.
It's not their job.
And medical decisions, which obviously they're doing all across the country. They're telling you what you can do medically and now what you can do in the schools.
You just read that thing about dyslexia, and Ian self-identifies as dyslexic. So let's hear from Ian on the Cape. Hey, Ian, great to hear from you. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Good morning. Yes, I am dyslexic and cursive. The theory is that because a whole word is connected, it's easier for us to read it.
That's very interesting.
In little letters.
Huh.
I don't know if that's true, but cursive, there is also the theory that cursive assists in brain development of everybody.
Well, when you say you don't know if it's true, was it true for you, Ian? Did it cause you to be able to read more fluidly?
I think so, but I'm not dead sure because we didn't have. I'm 74 years old.
Yeah.
We didn't have special ed when I was a kid. I was just labeled a dummy until my mother taught me to read.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, thank you for weighing in. We appreciate your call. Thank you.
You know, you hear that so often. People that had dyslexia, people that had learning disabilities, attention deficit disorder, they were just written off either as discipline problems or as as Ian said, dummies, which is really horrible. Anyway, we're talking about New Hampshire. The legislator up there wants to make decisions about what kids should learn in school.
Not legislature, it's a law now.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying this is a thing. The legislature wants to make decisions about what kids should learn in school, and a lot of legislators around the country want to make decisions for your medical care as well. Do you think this is a great idea? We're talking specifically about times tables and cursive writing. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Okay, here is our great deal today to entice you to become Sustainer members. That means you give a little bit of money every month, and so we can plan ahead for our budget. Today, you can support GBH at $10 a month and get an online subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times as a thank you gift.
It's one of our best gifts,
Since I am biased toward the New York Times, let me say, if you get an online subscription to the New York Times, you know what else you get? You get all their food sections. You get all their
How about
games.
a little disclosure, Marjorie?
Well, my daughter works for the New York Times, and she has a lot to do with their online, their apps and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, you get Wordle, the game that people love to play.
Indeed.
You get the spelling bee, you get crosswords, you get all these fun things every single day. The recipes, what to cook each week in New York, get the newsletters. So but the Washington Post is a great paper too. Not quite as good as the New York Times, but it's a really good newspaper. So that is a really fun thing to get. You can get these on all these devices, whatever your devices are, and you can read back and go into the history of the paper or articles you missed and all that kind of stuff. And people say they don't know they don't know fake news from. Well, you know what? The real news is in the Washington Post and the New York Times. Their op-ed page may be more liberal, or their editorial page, I should say, may be more liberal, but that is real news, and there's nobody that covers international news like the New York Times, which of course just won a Pulitzer Prize for their coverage of the war in Ukraine. Anyway, 888-897-9424 is the number. gbhnews.org is the website.
$10 a month. I have to say, of all the gifts we do, this is right up there as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of you, I'm guessing, already have a subscription to one or both. And you know what this is great for? Giving it to somebody, particularly a kid. If you have a high school kid, a high school friend of a kid of a friend, maybe your kid's in college, there's nothing better than, in my opinion, than buying them an online subscription to the Times or the Post. And by the way, this will make you happy because all you care about is what people give during our show because you're selfish.
That's right. It's done at 2.
Exactly. It is done at 2. If you want to do this, you got to do it by 2 o'clock, which will make Marjorie happy and make you unhappy if you wait till 2:05. And you do it by going to 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. Why do you find, other than your daughter connection, why do you find the New York Times superior to the Washington Post?
Because they've expanded. The Washington Post, they have much better podcasts. The Daily is a great podcast from the Daily News, from the New York Times, rather. They have made they've made themselves kind of a full-service operation.
True. Washington Post is a great paper.
Do you get your recipes from the New York Times? The
I
Washington
do.
Post?
I do.
You get them from the New York Times.
I do.
But all these papers do this now. Like the Times and the Post will have like the political section, the op-ed section, the life stuff. The Sunday New York Times with the book review and the magazine and stuff like that. It's just a great newspaper, and newspapers are really struggling, so that's why I'm so excited about them. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And the Boston Foundation. Knowing it will take all of us to improve lives and strengthen communities, TBF partners with leaders and changemakers to close opportunity gaps, advance equity, and power a better Boston. Learn more at tbf.org. And the Massachusetts CASA Association, working to create a commonwealth where every child grows up in a safe and permanent home. You can volunteer to become an advocate for a child in foster care at macasa.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Back at the library on Friday with the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. So if you're just joining in, we're asking asking 2 questions. One, do you like what the state of New Hampshire did, getting involved in what is taught in the schools? They're now mandating cursive and teaching the multiplication tables. We want to know about how you feel about state government involvement. But secondarily, how about the underlying decisions? Should cursive be taught? Should it be mandated, even if it's locally that it's done? And how do you feel about the multiplication table? Same deal.
You know what's very interesting about this story, too, that they interviewed the New Hampshire, one of the papers up there, interviewed the Deb Howe. She's the American Federation of Teachers of New Hampshire president.
Yep.
And she said, every single elementary school teacher she's spoken to about this already teaches cursive writing. So it's almost like a straw man kind of thing.
Well, it's a political act.
We're going to say cursive writing is going to save
traditional values. That's what it's, that crap.
Yeah, and of course so that we can read the Magna Carta and the Constitution in cursive. Let's go to Brady in the car. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Brady.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
I have a lot to say on this. I'm dysgraphic, so cursive is absolutely useless to me. It looks like a squiggle after about 3 words. But my wife is a kindergarten and first grade teacher. And can you hear me?
Yeah,
yep.
Perfectly.
And I'm watching the way math is taught now, and I was terrible at math up through the end of high school. Took me 6 years to get through 3 algebra classes. And it turns out when you put me in a physics class, I break the curve.
So what's the takeaway?
I need mathematics to have context. So the takeaway there is what's happening now is that little kids are being taught the basics of algebra in their math in the first grade and in kindergarten. And it's incredibly important. And multiplication tables are not an effective way to teach mathematics, except for a small group of people.
Does your wife agree with you since she's the teacher in the family?
She does, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Well, here's the question, Brady. Do you think your wife and educators who have been educated to teach and curriculum experts should be making these decisions, or should your legislator down the street make these decisions? I mean, I think that's kind of the crux of the problem. Who knows better? It seems to me the teachers do.
I have a competing couple of thoughts on that, and one is that I think that teachers should be in charge of curriculum, but when I look around at a lot of different states in the United States, there are some real idiot curricular decisions being made and I don't know if they're being made by the legislature or the teachers.
Well, let me tell you, some real idiot legislator is making $50 a year in New Hampshire, Brady, so I think that answers the question.
That's my state. I'm with you 100%.
Brady, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970. By the way, while lines are full, if any of you have actually read the Magna Carta in its original form, and you tell the call screener, we'll pop you up to the top of the list. In fact, if any of you know what the Magna Carta is, we'll pop you up to the top of the list.
Here's a parent weighing in. My daughter has an Ivy League degree and a master's in math. She cannot read cursive or tell time by an analog clock.
One of my kids could not tell time on an analog clock, way into her youthdom, I should say.
Nobody's going to be able to tie their shoes pretty soon. Is that a problem?
Do you hire someone to do it? Isn't that... Because people can be put out of work by AI, so you just throw somebody a few bucks.
Okay.
Maya in Providence, thank you for calling. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. I'm Maya, and I retired after 38 years of teaching last year.
Oh, great.
I was a reading specialist and an elementary teacher. And I have two things. One is when we talk about mandating, I think any of us who have been reading the New York Times article about what was happening in the Hasidic schools in New York City, where kids were graduating without knowing any basic skills and how they couldn't function on a daily level in the broader society if they should have chosen to, know that there has to be somebody making some basic laws about what kids are taught, and they have to be enforced. Now, should it be from the governor? No. Should it be from a board that, it's hard to know because everybody has their own personal interests. And boards of education, as we have seen, are being taken
Maya,
over
can I interrupt you? And my apologies. The connection is horrible. So if you want to give us one sentence wrap up, we'll take it.
But I also wonder whether religious schools operate under different rules, don't they? I mean, I don't think that.
No, I think there's Maya, am I not right? Based on the New York Times stuff, the basic curriculum they're mandated to adhere to, or am I wrong about that?
Yes, they're mandated, but they haven't been enforced.
That's what I understand. Maya, thanks for the call. I'm sorry we had to cut you off, but your phone connection is not
I think you have a lot more leeway, though, in religious schools than you do in public schools because it's a different.
By the way, I think where Maya was going, and if you weren't Maya, I'll go there, is, how do you know your school committee is going to do that? I mean, the closer it is to the action, the closer it is to the ground, is where decisions should be made. If you're uncomfortable solely being in the classroom and you want elected officials to be involved, then have the school committee involved. But a state government, it is purely posturing for absolutely no purpose other than political gain. 877-301-8970.
Let's go to, where are we going? We're going to Kevin in Manchester. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Hey, kids, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Great.
Met you back in 2016 when you came to the Radisson.
Oh, we love
your favorite Republican up here.
Oh, I remember you, Kevin. We go to New Hampshire, for those who don't know, for primary season for a week.
And it's
every
blast.
4 years, and it's fabulous. I do remember you, Kevin. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, I totally agree with you. I live in New Hampshire. I vote for the people, and I always quiz them before I vote. How will you vote? And then they get up to Concord, and they go to jelly, and they turn stupid, and they do everything but what we ask them. They don't need to tell us. But on the other hand, I am an engineer, and I think cursive and multiplication tables help you think, help your mind. You want to know what 12 times 13 is? It's 12 times 12, 144 plus 12, 156. You have to use your brain. That's all. And cursor, it's motor control, right? It's teaching you. So I do agree with you guys. They got to stay out of what they don't know.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you for the call. We appreciate both your points. Thanks.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who are fans of cursive because they do think it helps with the brain development. That seems to be controversial. Some people say it does. Some people say it doesn't. But again, it gets back to the initial point: who wants to make?
Which was it?
Well, who should make these decisions? I'm not big fans of school boards because I think a lot of people on school boards don't know what they're talking about either. I mean, let the people that went to college and got their master's degree in education.
Well, that's my default too, by the way.
I don't think it should be the school boards either because, talk about acrimonious meetings. You ever go to a school board meeting? It can get brutal, Jim. You have to bring in your flak hat. 877-301.
We're out of time.
Oh, we're out of time. Well, that takes care of that. Okay. Coming up,
you can write down the number for some other time. Maybe a little later in the show.
Trenny Casey's going to talk to us about the Churchill Downs, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, and also this terrible thing about these horses that were euthanized before the race. Listen to Boston Public Radio.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
Okay, we are here at the Boston Public Library, where we are every Tuesday and Friday, and we're asking you today if you can help us keep doing great things like coming to the Boston Public Library every Tuesday and Friday.
That's a great point that we never mentioned, by the way.
And keep Jim employed, because some people think he's hanging by a thread.
Well, because I am hanging by a thread.
Okay. So here's the deal. More than 70% of our budget comes from listener support, and most of it comes through small gifts, like $10 or $15 a month. And if you are not in a position to do that, but you're a big fan of National Public Radio, we are here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You know, we're happy to take whatever you feel you can give. And it's free, you know, and if you listen to us a lot, kind of seems sort of okay that you could contribute a little bit to what it costs to put this whole operation together 7 days a week. Anyway, here's the deal. We are offering today for $10 a month a digital online subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times. Somebody just texted say you had to pay separately for the cooking and the games. No, I don't. And if I don't, why should anybody
Maybe there's a limited subscription, but the general one that I have, you don't.
Yeah. And as we were saying before, the New York Times does all these great things. They have the Wordle game. They have the spelling bee. They have the crossword puzzles. They have the cooking. Trenny Casey just told me she uses their recipes all the time. I use the recipes all the time. You know what I am? I'm a terrible cook.
You are a terrible cook.
But they do have...
No, I mean, you said it, and you're a terrible cook.
They do have.
By the way, the New York Times has made you any better.
The point is, when I follow the New York Times recipe, Jim, I do quite well.
Okay.
And when I bring in the food to the office,
I'm willing to eat it.
Scarf it right down.
Can I get back to what you said before? By the way, it's 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Marjorie was not supposed to mention that I was hanging by a thread, but since you got into it, here's the truth. We were told this morning, if we don't raise a certain amount of money by 2 o'clock, one of us got to go. Now, we're not sure who, but we do know one of us will not be here tomorrow.
That's right.
If you don't do the right thing. And call
888 inside information.
897-9424, GBH News. I said it before. This is one of the best gifts we do. We have a lot of great gifts. This is fabulous. And it's not only fabulous for you. I'm guessing people listening to our show have a subscription already to one or both. Mm-hmm. But if you have, as I say, a kid, a next door neighbor, whatever. This is a fabulous gift for somebody. Very affordable price, $10 a month. And again, as Marjorie said, or maybe she didn't say, but we said earlier, it disappears at 2 o'clock as an enticement, as Marjorie calls it. So 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Support for our programs comes from you. And M. Steinert & Sons, New England's authorized Steinway piano dealer, with their May Factory Piano event happening May 19th to 21st. Featuring Steinway, Boston, and Essex pianos. Learn more at msteinert.com. And the Massachusetts CASA Association, working to create a commonwealth where every child grows up in a safe and permanent home. You can volunteer to become an advocate for a child in foster care at macasa.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Friday, our next day here, the mayor will join us for her hour of Ask the Mayor. Joining us now, though, in our studio at the Boston Public Library is Sports Authority Trenny Casey. She's an anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston. Hello, Trenny.
Hi, Trenny.
How are you?
New York Times cooking has made me a better cook.
Is that true?
Yes.
Can you cook or you're no good?
I can follow a recipe.
Yeah,
like I can't. I'm not like Tiffany Faison who can like walk into a grocery store and like pick out all these different ingredients and whip something together. Like I need some guidance. But if I follow the directions, I can make edible food.
And the New York Times is pretty simple in terms of directions.
Simple.
Let's move on. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's a clip.
Just trying to get you money, Jim.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, because he is hanging by a thread. Here's a clip from this year's Kentucky Derby with It's Madge, right?
Sure.
So we don't know. The horse that won, M-A-G-E, whatever it is.
Okay.
Go. Okay.
Just taking the lead here as they come into the final 16, and it is going to be
Mage. That's what I meant. Mage.
It's Mage. Okay.
Madge came in third, unfortunately. It's very sad.
I bet on Derma Sotogake. So
who?
Derma Sotogake is who I bet on.
Oh yeah, I saw that
one. And Reincarnate. Those are the two horses.
Just occurred to me. Hey, where's Zoe? Zoe was at the Kentucky Derby.
She was at the Kentucky
Derby,
and
she bet on a horse that had Jim was part of its name, and it won. 4-1 odds.
Oh, on like a lesser, like
one of the earlier races of the day.
Oh, one of the early races of the day. Phil was in the Kentucky Derby. I had my money on Phil.
Phils, and it was
Phil
a great
came in
story.
third or something like that.
Yeah, I don't really. Can we talk about two things about the Derby that matter? One, we're spending 30 seconds on this because I can't stand it anymore. It's the 50th anniversary. We did this ad nauseum yesterday. Greatest of all time.
I also heard you guys talking about it last week.
What you think? But we discuss it almost every day. Can we play? We want to get your thoughts on this nauseating sound from the guy from. Whoa! Did TB12 close?
Oh my God! It did.
Wow, that's a story.
Wow. You know why?
TB12 was a business across the street.
Because Tom Brady compared himself to Secretariat.
Here he is. Let's hear
why.
this. Okay, fine. Here is more. This is the second Tom Brady bite. He's comparing himself as a GOAT, greatest of all time, to Marjorie's GOAT, which is Secretariat. Here it is.
Maybe Secretariat would have become Secretariat even if he had a different owner, a different trainer, a different jockey. And maybe I would have found my way into a lineup, even if my good buddy Drew Bledsoe didn't get hurt that day on the field. But I do know the way it worked out for both of us. Felt a lot like fate.
What were they saying in your place about this?
What? We haven't even talked about this because we've been so obsessed with the Celtics.
You didn't know about this?
What is this?
It's a 3-minute video on NBC where he compares himself, and he is great.
There's no question. Was this like in the 7-hour preamble leading up to the Kentucky Derby?
On Saturday afternoon, an hour and a half before the race.
Well,
Tom Brady was
I was getting ready to go out at that time, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow, we are really reaching, huh, Tom Brady?
Exactly. I mean,
listen, I guess there are, if you want to mix, because I was reading about Secretariat and his dominance yesterday prior to the show, because I know how much Marjorie loves Secretariat.
Absolutely.
One of her lifelong loves.
We know that.
I mean, how unusual.
It is pretty incredible. Like, I guess I didn't realize that he had won
all three.
I knew he had won the Triple Crown, but I didn't realize that he had, to this day, had run the fastest races of any horse in history.
You
didn't know this?
And usually in
all
sports,
three.
Yeah, I guess usually in sports those records are broken. Like they say, like in swimming, 2008 is like the previous best record. Like in track and field, it's always getting the records are always getting broken.
Unique.
But Secretariat was unique, and they talked about how, and I thought this was interesting, and I wonder if this will lead us into our next story, that you're always sort of trying to find ways to make an athlete better, and I guess we'll refer to the horses as athletes, even though I think it's a little debatable. But the inbreeding of the horses to try and find that perfect DNA has actually not made them better.
Is that what Tom Brady was talking about, or
the
no?
Inbreeding?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
By the way, the name of the horse Zoe won $5 on was General Jim, and she writes, "We all serve under General Jim here at BPR." Thank you.
Very good.
Zoe from the top rope. I like it. I like it.
That.
I love that.
Speaking of drugs, the most troubling story. I can't talk. I really can't do Secretariat anymore. I'm sorry, Marjorie.
But he's the greatest of all time.
Okay, fine. I heard that.
That's right.
7 horses dead at Churchill Downs in a week.
I know.
2 in races on Kentucky Derby.
On the
they
day.
had to be euthanized. I mean,
I mean, and the front runner had to be
pulled. But it wasn't euthanized.
He wasn't euthanized, but he had to be pulled. I think, too, like, I wonder if all of those other things hadn't happened, Marjorie, if they would have allowed him to race anyway, to just try. But, like, you can't take that risk when you've had 7 horses die.
Yeah.
And then you think about what was happening at Santa Ana?
Yes.
Out in California, where a couple of years ago they had 30 horses die over the course of the racing season.
Well,
I mean, animal activists are outraged by
I'm
fact.
with them on this, by the way. It's a beautiful sport, but it really is a problem.
But you do wonder, like, what are they giving these horses? What are they doing? Are they? And what also was interesting to me when I was reading about Secretariat, not to bring it back to Secretariat, Jim, but that part of the reason he was so dominant is because he wasn't racing. Like, there was a short shelf life for these horses, and now it's even shorter because it's like they get injured, they get hurt. I just want to know, like, what are they doing to them? What are they using? What are they putting in them that is not allowing them to live healthy, full lives?
Well, you also wonder about these horses that come from very far away, like Madge came from Venezuela.
Mage,
whatever his name is, I'm sorry.
There were 2 Japanese horses who had never even raced in the United States.
They put them on a boat, an airplane? How did they get here?
You know what? I feel like we had this. Oh, we were talking about this during the Olympics, like for equestrian. Like, how do you get your horse from the United States or South America or Europe?
Didn't Ann Romney have a horse that was a jumping horse in an Olympics?
I think you have to put it either on like a huge, like, I think they put them on like cargo planes, like military style cargo planes. Like, that's how big. Yeah, right. Like, so there's all these like different. I just.
Did you read this Globe story which said 7,200 horses have died in races between 2009 and 2021? 7,000.
I know.
That's 600 a year. I didn't know it was that high. That is incredible.
Neither did I. Now, this is the United States and Canada, but this is according to the Jockey Club database. And by the way,
I know
the most dangerous sport, I think
for the athlete,
fishing and jockeys are right next to each other.
Because think about how you get thrown from a horse.
2,000-pound horse.
When you're riding and you're going at speeds that are as fast as a car, you lose your balance, you fall off. If you're training a horse and that horse, you get trampled, that horse gets upset, they kick you. Like, there are a lot of, and think about how small. I would think that also the injuries that play in with jockey, and I think this doesn't get talked about very much, but in order to be a jockey, think of how tiny those men are.
Yep.
Like, I do wonder. I think about
women too.
Some of the women that race. Like, I wonder about, like, are you jogging in the sweatsuits and all the things to keep your weight down and not eating properly so that you're staying a certain light weight so that you do not put any extra stress on the horse.
I remember years ago I did a story about Suffolk Downs. I was working for Boston Magazine and I went over there and I thought, why are so many people in wheelchairs? And I discovered that they were ex-jockeys who had their backs broken. And lots of times, you know where they get hurt? Is in when they're lining up.
In the state,
the bell goes off and the horse freaks out and
they're thrown from.
Yep. Or they're banged against the wall. They're underneath the horse. Yeah, broken backs. It's terrible.
This article that I read in whether it was the Times, USA Today, there were all these articles about the horses that died. There have been stricter rules put in place recently about what you can use, like the types of drugs you can use on the horse, sort of the equine therapy.
7 dead horses in a week suggests it's not working.
Exactly.
At one track.
Peter's very opposed to it.
I
should point out that Ron Turcotte, when he was hired by Penn
Secretariat, right?
to ride Secretariat, he met her in a restaurant. He came in with a big cast up to his thigh and on crutches because he'd just been
thrown from a horse.
Yeah,
I haven't really.
You have like an unhealthy obsession with this. Do you know this?
Did you ride?
I'm trying to be nice, but really.
I did. I used to ride horses when I was little.
Yeah. I was just about to say I wasn't a fancy kid, so I didn't ride horses. So I don't know anything about them.
Yeah,
fancy
I was very
kid
fancy.
from Fall River.
I was very fancy, and at Smith College where I started out, your daughter did too. You could ride there as your sport.
Wow.
Beautiful stables. Yeah, it was really nice.
That is a fancy college.
Okay, we're talking to NBC Sports Trainer Casey. The conversation continues. We're right here on Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
You know that interview you just heard? Only on Boston Public Radio can you hear conversations like that every day, commercial-free. Instead, we ask you to step up and show your support every now and then. So pitch in at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
By the way, that's our colleague Maeve, and what she's trying to get you to give. You know that conversation you just heard for the 4 millionth time about Secretary? Send your money so you can get more of that.
And watch the movie. It's a very sappy movie. It's great. Diane Lane plays Penny Chenery, Secretary.
Okay,
here we go.
You're killing our pledge
machine.
drive. Here's the deal. Let's ignore what was just said. Let's move on to a fabulous, what Marty calls enticement.
Okay.
Today, thank you. For $10, you get an online subscription to the New York Times or the Washington Post. I would say the two best, maybe the Wall Street Journal's up there, national papers in the country. It's fabulous. It expires. The offer expires at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
So you got to do this by 2
That's
o'clock
right.
by the end of the show or you're not getting it. And you do it by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And by the way, we haven't said this today. It takes like a minute or maybe 90 seconds to do this, so it's not burdensome. And when you're done, you'll have two great feelings. One, you'll have an online subscription to a fabulous newspaper, either for you or to give to somebody.
Yep.
And secondly, you will have given to a news organization that we assume you think pretty well of, or you wouldn't be hearing me say this kind of thing.
That's right. Did the Washington Post win any Pulitzers this year, Jim?
I don't know. Did they?
I don't think they did.
New York Times did.
New York Times did.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out. And Los Angeles Times won 2, I think. Anyway, Jim.
You also won a Pulitzer, by the way?
The Atlantic.
No, the guy that was here the other day from Omar and Rhiannon Giddens.
Yes.
What was his first name? Michael Abels?
Michael Abels.
Michael Abels and Rhiannon Giddens won.
The Pulitzer Prize winners
before the fact.
That's right.
In any case.
That's right. I don't know if he'll be back now. He's won the Pulitzer. He might be too big of a
Unfortunately,
star.
Omar is not here anymore, but hopefully he returns. But it's going to be on CRB at some point. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's the deal. As we said before, the gift we're giving away today is a subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times, $10 a month. And we mentioned before all the great additions you get, at least with the New York Times, cooking, the games, and all that kind of stuff. And if we didn't do these pledge drives a few times a year, then we would have to do commercials. And we've all said a million times how horrible it would be to have to do commercials for 6 or 7 minutes, 3 times an hour. So we don't do that because we are very lucky to have generous listeners who give us more than 70% of our budget in small gifts like $10 or $15 a month, and $10 a month gets you the subscription to either the Washington Post or the New York Times online. So again, here is the number, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're talking to Trenny Casey of NBC Sports Boston right here at the library. And we got to move it because we're a little short on time.
We are. So we have a little sound from the last couple of seconds of the Celtics game. The heartbreaker. The other night. Let's hear that depressing, upsetting sound.
Down by 1. 10 seconds to play. Tatum against Harris. Tatum. Smart. Got it. Did it count?
I don't think he got it off.
Did not get it off in time, it appeared. It appeared to be late. They're going to review it by rule because it went through the basket as the time expired.
They should fire this coach like today, by the way.
Okay.
I'm serious. How can by the way, I don't know anything about anything.
I thought he's done pretty well in the playoffs.
What kind of dope does not call a timeout?
He's been hoarding those timeouts all season long. We actually played yesterday at the top of our show. We played a compilation of about a minute and a half of different times this season that he should have called a timeout, that he did not call a timeout, and the Celtics end up losing the game. I said yesterday, when in doubt, call a timeout. Like, that should be your motto. You should put it up somewhere, because there's a couple of times he should have called the timeout. He should have called a timeout at the end of regulation when Marcus Smart took a three-point shot and it rimmed and it bounced off the front of the rim, because Marcus Smart, we love you, love your hustle, love your grit.
Not a great shooter.
You are a streaky shooter. Sometimes you hit nothing but net, and sometimes you barely hit the rim. That ball should be in the hands of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown late in a game, and for whatever reason it wasn't. But if you call a timeout and you drop a play, you can do that. Okay, fine, goes to overtime, doesn't get it. You'd think that when Jaylen Brown completely flakes on the defensive end, does not double teams Joel Embiid, who, by the way, did not have a great second half, ran out of gas in the fourth quarter, was spooked by how well Al Horford played him defensively. James Harden, on the other hand, was, had 39 points at that point. He was just unconscious. He was hitting every shot he put up, and they leave him wide open in the corner to nail a three-pointer that ended up giving them the win. So what should you do, Joe Mazzulla? You should recognize that your team was just set defensively. There was a bad play. Now they're scrambling back in the offensive end. Call a timeout, set a play again.
Fire
and then
so why doesn't he? What's his opposition to
He's over his head. He's so young and so
I agree with you,
this.
Jim. I did not think when they gave him the extension and took the interim tag off him, I thought that was a huge mistake.
He was like a Division II coach, which is great, but it's not. And then an assistant in the NBA, and all of a sudden, when Udoka was fired or whatever he was, suspended, they hired this.
Yeah, and
this
I mean,
guy.
listen, they didn't have much choice. But another mistake that they made is that they chose to not bring in, like everybody thought maybe they would bring in Frank Vogel, who is a longtime head coach.
A coach.
Yeah,
okay.
longtime head coach in the NBA. Used to coach for the Lakers. I think most recently. Could have come in, maybe been a presence on the bench, talk to him about what it's like to be a head coach, been like sort of an elder statesman. They didn't do it. And listen, do I think it's going to cost them a series? I don't. And Joe Mazzulla did say after the game, he refused to take responsibility. Somebody must have gotten in his ear because yesterday he was like, I'm looking back, hindsight's 2020. I should have called a timeout. So we'll see tonight. We'll see Big game tonight because it's a 7:30 start. Pregame on NBC Sports Boston at 6:30.
Excellent.
Series tied at 2-2, so it's the best of three.
We only have a minute left or less. Prior to getting married, I assume from time to time you would break off with a guy you were dating. Is that safe?
Like I would break up?
Yeah, you break up. Okay, did you ever?
I broke up with lots of guys broke up with me. Yes.
Well, I'm talking about you. Did you ever hire a lawyer to tell the guy that you were no longer going to be dating him like Tiger Woods did?
One time, I did use a matchmaker, and I didn't want to go out with someone again, and the matchmaker told the guy that it was. But no, we only went on one date, and that's how it was set up. That on the first date, you were not to communicate afterwards with the other person. You only communicated through the matchmaker. And I have to say, it was lovely because I didn't have to say anything. But no, an adult says to a person, unlike Tiger Woods, hey, this isn't working anymore. I think that maybe we need to go our separate ways. You don't tell your girlfriend who is now suing you for various reasons that you're going on a trip to the Bahamas, take her to a private plane, and then have your lawyer say, yes, we're breaking up with you. You also have to move out of the $35 million home.
That's what the lawyer did, by the way.
That's what the lawyer did. I wish we had more time to talk about that story.
It's an anchor reporter for NBC Sports Boston, a BPR contributor. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 at the Boston Public Library. Up next, Carol Rose for ACLU.
And Boston Public Radio today made possible by our listener contributors. That's how GBH works. The money that you give helps to keep Boston Public Radio on the radio. So please sign up as a sustaining member during our spring membership drive. You can go online with your support at gbhnews.org or call us at 888-897-9424. Good morning, I'm Mark Cohen, and I'm joined by Zach Finn.
Our immediate goal is to receive 8 contributions in the next 7 minutes. The goal is so important because it will help pay for your future GBH listening. We suggest giving what you can, $100 or maybe $15 a month on the Sustainer plan. 8 more people to give and just 7 minutes left to do it. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And as Jim and Marjorie have been saying, we have a great thank you gift for your contribution of $10 a month on our Sustainer plan. It's your choice, an annual online subscription to either the Washington Post or the New York Times. 2 great news organizations and an annual online subscription. What a way to go for $10 a month on our Sustainer plan. Don't worry about exceeding the free article limit. You will have unlimited access to all that the Washington Post and the New York Times offers, and you could follow your articles and your reading on your tablet, your smartphone, or your laptop. It goes wherever you go. $10 a month or $120, take your pick, the Washington Post or the New York Times, when you call us at 888-897-9424 or go online, gbhnews.org.
At its heart, public radio is a grassroots operation. You give money to GBH, we send money to NPR. NPR gives that money to its reporters, editors, and producers to create the finest journalism you'll find anywhere. Right now, I'm asking you to join as a sustaining member of GBH by giving $10 or $20 per month. Those sustaining gifts add up to more than $250,000 we will be sending to NPR each quarter. And that means NPR's journalism will be available to you at home, in your car, and on your mobile device. us. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And we promise the giving really just takes a couple of minutes of your time. All we need is your name, some contact information, how much you'd like to give, and how you'd like to pay. We're asking you to consider becoming a sustaining member to GBH, but if you want to make a one-time gift, well, that works for us as well. All gifts in any amount truly are welcome. The important thing, though, is to get involved, participate, and make your call and show your support right now. You can go to the phone, 888-897-9424, or look for the donate button at gbhnews.org.
Today we're asking for you to join GBH by giving what you can. Your financial commitment will have a big impact on the news and information you hear every single day. This is how we pay the bills and keep GBH strong, by getting a lot of listeners to give what they can. Please participate in ensuring GBH is always on the radio by giving now. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
All right, we got about 4 minutes left to go this hour, and now 6 more contributions are what we're asking for. 6 contributions in the last 4 minutes of this 11 o'clock hour. The goal's so important, it'll help to pay for your future GBH listening. We suggest giving what you can. Maybe that's $100, maybe it's $15 a month on our sustainer plan. Whatever works for you will work for us. But again, 6 more people to give, just about 3.5 minutes left to go. 888-897-9424, online at gbhnews.org.
Support GBH at $10 a month and choose an annual online subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times as a thank you gift. And this offer is just for today. The Washington Post and the New York Times, news sources you trust and rely on. And now you can get the Post or the Times with a single contribution to GBH. Support GBH by signing up as a sustaining member at $10 a month, or go ahead and give $120 all at once and ask for the Washington Post or the New York Times when you do. That deadline is coming up, though, at 2 o'clock. After that, neither will be available. So please give online at gbhnews.org or give us a call, 888-897-9424.
I'd like to send a couple of thanks out to Sharon in Mattapoisett and Christine in Arlington. Thank you for sharing your support with us today. I also want to say thanks to Gregory out in Wakefield. Gregory wrote to us that he and his wife were sitting around talking about their giving, and once they knew they could get an annual online subscription, well, it became a no-brainer for them. Gregory, thank you so much. Happy reading, and thanks again to Sharon and Christine. We hope you're next on the phone or online with your support. It's really easy to do at 888-897-9424 or go online at gbhnews.org.
The monthly sustaining membership is the preferred way to support GBH. It's quick and so easy to set up. Just pick an amount for a recurring charge from your bank account or your credit card. Many folks start out by giving $10 per month, so please take a few minutes now and go ahead and sign up. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
You know, it's even more important than ever to stay connected and informed about what's happening around us, and that's exactly what our partnership with the Washington Post and the New York Times will help you do. We've got an annual online subscription to either newspaper of your choice for your support of $10 a month on our sustainer plan, or a one-time gift of $120. Take your pick, and it'll be an ad-free and
more smart conversation about community issues is up ahead with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and M&M Skylights, offering a wide range of Velux skylight products, installation, and maintenance services to customers from Boston to Portland and surrounding areas. More information at mmskylights.com. And McLean Middleton, a regional law firm with over 100 attorneys and locations in Woburn and Boston, serving clients for over 100 years in the areas of corporate law, tax law, litigation, and estate planning. McLean.com.
I'm Rachel Armani, Associate Producer for Morning Edition, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR, what matters to you.
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library today. Over at the ACLU of Massachusetts, Cal Rose has been filing.
The company files for bankruptcy. What did all that cheap, slogan-riddled junk mean for your life? Where are you going to get your best Mom in America mug for 50 cents now? Then at CNN's John King, zooming in to weigh in on the dire polling numbers for Biden and other headlines out of Washington. All that ahead, Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Biden meets with congressional leaders this afternoon as the clock is ticking toward a possible government default. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the political showdown over the federal debt ceiling is already raising costs for taxpayers.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has warned that unless Congress authorizes additional borrowing, the government could run short of money to pay its bills in just over 3 weeks. Shai Cabas of the Bipartisan Policy Center says financial jitters around that so-called X date are already making it more expensive for the government to borrow money.
I would expect that concern will only increase as we go through the coming weeks if there is no resolution. And we could also see moves in equity markets or actions by credit rating agencies as we get closer to the X-date deadline.
House Republicans are demanding deep spending cuts in exchange for raising the debt ceiling. The White House insists the government's good credit should not be used as a bargaining chip. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
There is a new breast cancer screening recommendation from the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force. NPR's Allison Aubrey tells us the group concludes that women should begin getting mammograms at age 40.
There's been a rise in breast cancer among people under the age of 50. Dr. Carol Mangione of UCLA is co-author of the new recommendation and says there's evidence to show the benefit of mammograms for women in their 40s.
New and more inclusive science has allowed us to expand our prior recommendation and encourage all women to get screening starting at the age of 40.
Every other year. Until now, women had been encouraged to talk to their healthcare providers about when to start screenings. About 42,000 women die of breast cancer each year, and Dr. Mangione says if all women followed the recommendations, deaths could be reduced by about 20%. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
A jury begins deliberating today in the civil trial against former President Donald Trump. Columnist E. Jean Carroll accusing him of raping her in a women's dressing room in Manhattan decades ago and then lying about it. Trump denies the allegations. Public emotions are mixed over Russia's Victory Day celebrations today, commemorating the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. In Moscow, NPR's Charles Means reports the ceremony in Red Square was more muted compared with previous years as Russian troops are drawn deeper into a conflict that Russia's President Vladimir Putin started with Ukraine more than a year ago.
It's worth pointing out that even before the war in Ukraine, some Russians were highly uncomfortable with the way Putin has politicized this holiday in general. But amid the fighting in Ukraine, there's real concern that these comparisons with World War II undermine legitimate pride in the Soviet defeat of Nazi Germany, a war effort, I remind you, that took more than 20 million lives.
NPR's Charles Maines reporting from Moscow. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon from the GBH Radio Newsroom. I'm Henry Santoro. The Mass Department of Transportation says drivers will be able to use the Sumner Tunnel this weekend. Work inside the tunnel is being put on hold because of the anticipated increase in traffic due to Mother's Day weekend. MassDOT officials say the tunnel will remain open for the whole weekend. The Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center is the only local finalist for a state advocacy award. Massachusetts Nonprofit Network has nominated the center as a nonprofit for the year. The Excellence Award in Advocacy recognizes a nonprofit whose work has shown progress on a public policy. Only 6 nonprofits will be awarded. The Veterans Outreach Center is in its 40th year of food distribution and upgraded its food pantry in Hyannis in December. Winners will be announced at the State House on June 6th. The Boston-based restaurant tech company Toast has announced that it plans to pay $16 million to break its lease at the former Sears building in the Fenway neighborhood. Documents filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission this week show that Toast was renting over 133,000 square feet of space spanning 2 floors of that building. The lease had been scheduled to expire at the end of 2029. The filing does not say why Toast is leaving or where it's going. In sports, Red Sox, Celtics, and Revs all in action tonight. The Red Sox in Atlanta. It's Game 5 of the Celtics-76ers game at the Garden. They're tied at 2 games each, and the Revs host Pittsburgh at Foxborough. 60 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Indeed, committed to helping businesses attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library as we do every Tuesday and every Friday, and we are streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. We're joined now at the library by Carol Rose. Carol's the Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Hello, Carol Rose.
Hello, great to be here.
Nice to see you.
Hi. So let's start with the ACLU filing a public records lawsuit against Auditor Diana Zaglio's office. Certain irony here. She's going after the legislature to get rid of non-disclosure agreements, and you guys going after her for wrongfully, you say, withholding records. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is, part of the ACLU's transparency work, open government, sunlight, and all that kind of stuff. And so just this morning, we filed a public records lawsuit against the Office of the State Auditor in its official capacity for wrongfully withholding documents that are related to actually prisoner deaths and health care in houses of correction. And so last March of 2023, the state auditor released a couple of reports, had done an investigation, but in that the whole lot of information was redacted in the conclusions. And so we don't actually know what was redacted, what was kept out, but we believe it's really important. When people's lives and health are at stake, it's really important that we have open government at that moment.
What's the argument? I mean, I get the irony is great. She was on this a few weeks ago, and the whole centerpiece is not just getting rid of NDAs, but transparency in government. So What's the deal? What's her argument?
So the argument is that she's invoking an exception to the public records law, say that it would violate public health or public safety under a terrorism exception. But it's really just hard to know how
terrorism?
Right, and it's really hard to know how that would relate to provision of health care in a incarceral setting. So we're trying to understand it better, and so the purpose of the lawsuit isn't to attack anyone in particular, but rather to try to seek redress from the courts to make sure that we have public information so that the public knows what's going on. Because when people's liberty are taken away by the state, that's the time when the state has an obligation to either provide them with health care, prevent deaths in custody, or to let people know why those things are happening.
Just one quick thing. It just drove me crazy, and especially when I used to be a reporter, about state agencies in general claiming confidentiality, privacy issues.
Right.
And it's baloney. The worst offender was always the Department of Children and Families. Well, we can't discuss this because of these children. Well, you don't have to discuss the individual children or reveal their names. You have to reveal the circumstances around it. Right. To me, we have been a disgrace for years.
Well, we should put this in the context of what we said 10,000 times. There's one state in the United States where the judiciary, the executive branch, and the legislature all claim exemption
Let me guess,
from public records laws. What is that state?
That state is Massachusetts.
Ding, 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 ding. I mean, it really is a disgrace.
And Florida, which used to be so great, now DeSantis is cracking down. They're not so great anymore. He's trying to close things up down there. But it's a real problem for the citizens not to know what their state government is doing.
And the Center for Public Integrity down in Washington, D.C. always gives Massachusetts a bad grade on this because, we should be able to be better than that. And hopefully with this lawsuit and with the ACLU doing what it's supposed to do, we'll get the information and have that transparency.
I have to say, though, when you said a minute ago the purpose is not to attack someone in particular, that's when I lost interest. I'm not that... If your goal is not to attack someone personally, I really am not.
Okay.
I'll leave that to you, Jim. That's great.
Thank you.
So earlier we were talking with listeners about this effort up in New Hampshire to get cursive back in the schools and multiplication back in the schools. The legislature's going to decide these things.
Law just signed.
But there's a much more troubling, I think, effort up there about parental rights. Tell us what's going on.
So, this is a lawsuit up in New Hampshire, or a effort to pass a bill up in New Hampshire that would basically, it's under the guise of a parent's right bill, but what it basically says is that teachers are supposed to basically out any student who adopts a different name or something like that in the school and out them to their parents. And it's really forcing these students against their public safety by requiring the teachers to inform on the students to their parents. And it really singles out trans youth in particular, so it's not just for anything, it's just for this particular thing. And so they're going to be surveilling the students to find out if any of the students might be exploring their trans identity. And so we have these kinds of things, and it's not just in New Hampshire, it's really across the country, and we're seeing it here in Massachusetts as well. And the ACLU, along with other civil rights groups, is really holding the line to say that we need to make sure that our youth are protected, that they can explore their identities, and that they don't do so at the risk of being outed by school officials.
How do you respond to, though, and I support your position, and I understand that particularly trans youth kids are amongst the most vulnerable population, and a lot of them need to be protected from their parents as opposed to outed.
Sadly.
However, I have to say I have some sympathy for a parent who does love their kid, whether their kid is trans or not,
Right.
wants to help their kid and feels they were shut out from something that would have allowed them to be more helpful
Right.
to their growth, to their
Yeah,
living.
and you know,
how
Jim,
do you deal
and I
with
think
that family?
it's really hard. I mean, first of all, I think for most parents who are open-minded like that, that isn't going to be an issue because the kids would go to the parents.
That's
But
that's actually
healthcare
a good
providers,
point.
medical care providers, I mean, just it's a pretty consistent evidence-based response that if a child feels like they need to hide that from their parents, that the child's welfare comes first, even before the parents' rights. And these are such hard questions. I don't want to in any way dismiss the fact that it's not a challenge. But the medical care authorities and the sort of scientific evidence is pretty clear that this is the right way to go.
You know, ordinarily, we were going to leave this till the end, but I can't wait till the end. Sometimes it's sort of like Marjorie and Secretariat. That's the same way I feel about the grifter-in-chief, Clarence Thomas.
Oh, my goodness,
What is the Civil Liberties Union nationally able to do? I mean, we had Senator Whitehouse on a couple of weeks ago, who's one of the people leading the charge in the Senate to have ethical standards, recusal standards, not only in place for the Supreme Court, only federal court where they don't exist,
right,
but also have them be enforceable. I think it's fair to say, if you're a fair-minded person, that Clarence Thomas is one of the most corrupt people that has ever worn a robe, maybe in American history. Obviously not going to resign. One, because, well, two, I have a couple of questions. One, what is the Civil Liberties Union doing? And two, why are organizations not putting pressure on the three liberal justices who, in my opinion, one of the worst examples or best of horrible judgment, signed on to this statement by the Chief Justice to the Senate committee saying, we're not coming to your hearing. And essentially the message was, nothing to see here, everything is fine. Does Sotomayor and the other two liberal justices, Ketanji Brown Jackson and Kagan, they think everything's fine with the ethics of the Supreme Court?
Right, and I think the message was like, we're above the law. I think it was even worse. It was sort of saying...
So why'd they sign on to this thing?
Well, this is a good question. I think, you know, when you work with only 8 other people in your job full-time and it's a lifetime appointment, you know, you probably want to go along to get along, right? So that's my assumption.
That's pretty pathetic, though. You're probably right, but it is pathetic.
It is pathetic. And, you know, the ACLU is before the Supreme Court more than any other organization in the whole country except the Department of Justice.
Really?
Yeah, so, I mean, we're there a lot. And so it's hard for us to be able to be in a position to litigate this, right? But we have come out and said four square that we think there should be reforms and that judges should adopt them and be accountable to them. And I'm so glad also to see that our 2 senators, Liz Warren and Ed Markey, are also part of that effort to try to make sure that there are some reforms passed. I think the best thing that people can do is to really raise their voices, let their federal representatives and senators know that we care about this, that the integrity of the court is incredibly important. And then at the same time, I just want to say, one of the things that's happening across the country as the federal courts become more and more sort of captured by the far right, the action's really moving to the state courts, and especially the state Supreme Courts. And I'm so glad to say that that's what's happening here in Massachusetts, where we have a great state Supreme Court and a state constitution that can be more protective than the federal constitution. And that's happening across the country.
Well, except a judge we respect a lot, and I'm sure you do too, former Judge Nancy Gertner has been here and said, if this Congress, if the Senate becomes Republican, and Donald Trump or another Republican is president, and they pass certain legislation, pick one subject on abortion, that would nullify the protections that exist even in
for
progressive
abortion
states
rights. If they criminalize
on abortion
abortion,
rights.
If they criminalize
so
abortion,
there's only so far that state courts can go. Right.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. But there still is an awful lot of work that we can and are doing to focus on the state Supreme Courts when we run into a brick wall at the federal court.
You know what I don't understand, though? When apparently at some point in his career, Clarence Thomas did report his wife's income, then he stopped reporting his wife's income when she was getting money through this Leonard Leo guy who's behind the Federalist Society, big right-wing Catholic. That's against the law, right? You can't not report someone's income on your taxes.
It doesn't apply to them, but it doesn't. It applies to every federal judge except the justices on the Supreme Court.
That's tax evasion.
I don't think
he has to pay taxes.
If it was actually criminal tax evasion, he wouldn't be above the law. As an ethics violation, apparently,
how is that not criminal?
He is.
How is that not criminal?
If you I think that would be a great question.
How do you know that it's not reported on their tax returns? We know that it's not reported on their ethics, their disclosure forms. You don't know that it's not disclosed on their tax returns. That would be criminal if they were to do that.
And that
we
would
don't
be
know
for
that.
Merrick Garland.
Okay, so we don't know. So we don't know
know
that. We just know he didn't disclose them.
He didn't
may have put
disclose it on
his
the ethics
taxes.
form.
So in light of,
It's
I know
still
the Civil
shameless,
Lawyers
though.
Union nationally is saying we need advice from Jim Browdy. So let me give it. They got to focus on these three progressives on the court who, even though whatever you said about get along, go along to get along, whatever it is, this is huge. I mean, beyond the corruption of Thomas, and I would argue of Gorsuch with that dealing in Colorado,
Doesn't
Alito.
come close, though, to Thomas.
Well, I would agree. Well, how about Chief Justice Roberts
And
and
his
his wife making $1 million
I know.
as a headhunter for lawyers who appear before the damn court?
Well, you know what the thing is? We talk all the time about police officers needing to turn in their disreputable fellow cops.
Right.
That is 1,000,000 times harder because
Of course it is.
their lives could be in the line. Some
Right.
other cop could turn
Right.
around and shoot them or something.
Exactly.
What is the risk for people who are appointed to a job for life that they don't have the courage when they're not going to lose
To
their
be a
job?
profiling courage.
The worst that they're going to do is they're going to be snubbed in the hallway or when they're taking the pictures together and something like that. The lack of...
I'd love to nominate the two of you to the highest
I would
court.
like to be
That's
nominated,
right.
actually.
I tell you.
I've been waiting a long
I know a lot
long
about
time
it,
for
let
this.
me tell you.
That's one person. Thank you very much. Notice one out of everybody. Oh, you two back there? You're lying, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I was really
Thank you.
surprised. We have Nancy Gertner on, and I'm a huge fan of hers,
Oh,
former
she's
federal
great,
judge.
yes.
But I was surprised to hear her say she could understand why they didn't go against their fellow judges. I don't get it.
Can
for
I
a
say one
second.
last thing about this, then we have to take a break?
What?
I've said this 1,000,000 times, but I'll say it 1,000,001. One of the problems when you talk about the financial corruption of the Thomas family is you fail to mention the most egregious act by his wife, which is an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States of America.
Right.
And which she engaged in,
Yes.
and her husband is on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Can I just say a little bit
say
of hope
whatever you
in all
want.
of this? The fact that we're talking about this, the fact that this is in all the headlines. I mean, we've been talking about it now. It's been a year since the first Ginny Thomas
Getting
stuff
a lot
came
of
out.
action, aren't
There's
we?
no, but I think it takes a long time to move the
I
public
hope.
opinion and to shine that spotlight. So I still
I hope
remain
you're
hopeful
right.
that there's going to be change.
Hope you're
Jim.
right.
I really do.
Okay, we're talking to Carol Rose from the ACLU. We're going to talk to her a little bit more after this quick break. Listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 from the Boston Public Library.
You count on Boston Public Radio for context, analysis, and insight. And Boston Public Radio counts on you. Pitch in and keep the conversation going. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, I was singing the praises before for the New York Times. My daughter works there, saying about they won 2 Pulitzers. A texter corrected me. The Washington Post did win 2 Pulitzers as well.
I didn't know that.
So
Okay.
they were neck and neck on the Pulitzer. For the Atlantic won 1, 2, and they've won one every year for I think 5 or 6 years.
AP won a couple.
Yep, the AP won a couple too. Yep, and that was international reporting as well. But in any case, they are both great newspapers. I am partial to the New York Times for obvious reasons. I love Wordle every morning, and I love the spelling bee, and I love the crossword puzzle, and they also love the cooking things. But here's the reason I mentioned that. Why did I mention that, Marjorie? Because GBH at this moment is offering $10 a month an online subscription to one or the other, the Washington Post or the New York Times, as a thank you gift for contributing. And these offers are only on offer until 2 o'clock today.
That's correct.
Which means anybody who subscribes to these papers, we get the credit for it. And I really like to get the credit during our show.
Yes, you do.
More than 70% of our budget comes from the generosity of listeners like you. So we really appreciate anything you can give. But if you give that $10 a month today, you'll get that digital subscription, and you won't regret it. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And by the way, people are texting saying, can we disclose any more about the ultimatum we got this morning? Is we either raise enough money or one of us is gone tomorrow. We can't disclose any more, but it is what it is. So I would call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. That's assuming you want Marjorie to continue to be employed. And if you don't, That's your choice. In any case,
Jim is ready to go it alone.
I have to say, this is maybe, other than the smug mug, which is really right up there, but that's done for this pledge drive.
It's done.
This thing is fabulous. I'll say it again. It's a great thing for you if you don't already have an online subscription to the Times of the Post. And if you already have one, don't run away. Give it to your kid. Give it to your grandkid. Give it to your niece, your neighbor. There's no better gift than this, in my estimation, other than the smug mug, of course, which you're too late for. 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is the number. And once again, if you're laboring under the misconception, laboring too, under the misconception that, they got all their money from government, they don't need us. 70% plus of our contributions come from individual listeners. You are an individual listener. And if you're not contributing now, I think the right thing to do is to give what you can in whatever amount at 888-897-9424 or go to gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you and Mitsubishi Electric, providing homeowners access to heating and cooling solutions with electric heat pump systems that can also achieve their sustainability goals. Learn more at mitsubishicomfort.com/NPR. And the Boston Foundation. Knowing it will take all of us to improve lives and strengthen communities, TBF partners with leaders and changemakers to close opportunity gaps, advance equity, and power a better Boston. Learn more at tbf.org. And Babson College. You can build entrepreneurial skills with a Babson MBA. Ranked #1 in entrepreneurship by U.S. News & World Report. Fall application deadline May 22nd. babson.edu/MBA.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude, Margery Eagan, live at the Boston Public Library. On Friday, we're back at the library. Mayor Wu joins us for an hour for Ask the Mayor. But right now, we're continuing our conversation with the head of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts, Carol Rose.
Great to be here.
So, Carol Rose, what happened about the Pride celebration involving a drag show up in North Brookfield, Massachusetts?
Oh, this is such a good news story, I have to say. So the town of North Brookfield decided they wanted to have a Pride parade, small town Pride, and it was really a wonderful opportunity. And so they issued a permit to the Rural Justice Network to host small town Pride, which is a wonderful thing. And then they found, including a drag performance. And then they had a subsequent meeting where they said, wait a minute, we didn't want to have a drag performance happening in our small town Pride parade, so they took away the permit and said you can't do it because we think a drag performance would be wrong, which is a content-based restriction. Once you issue a permit in a public space, you can't then say, oh, we don't really like the message that you're bringing. And how would you even define what a drag show is anyway? Is it anybody dressed in a different costume? What does it actually mean? And so the ACLU wrote them a letter, a nice letter, informing them that it is important that they not violate people's free speech rights, freedom of expression, under both the federal Constitution, the First Amendment, free speech rights, or the state Constitution under Article 16. And the good news story is that they changed their minds, they reinstituted the permit, and the parade is going forward.
You know, my sense of this, we've had a lot of drag queens on the show who do Drag Queen Story Hour, and we talk about the content. They've read some of the books that they read at these things for kids.
It isn't about sex, despite what you hear.
My sense is, I know the content as such is not what your litigation is about, but it's sort of like the earlier conversation we had with a caller about an effort to ban a critical race theory where it doesn't even exist in the vast majority of schools in which people propose to ban it. Do any of these people, have they ever been to one? Do they even know what it is they're concerned about? They're allegedly grooming kids, which they are not. I mean, do they even know?
I think people don't know. And, fear is such a powerful motivator, and there's so much fear around some of this stuff, whether we're talking about racial justice or whether we're talking about, drag shows or whether we're talking about LGBT rights or any of this stuff. There's so much fear, and people are motivated by fear more than by hate. And I think these efforts, not only is it important that people be exposed to this stuff, but we also have to protect the free expression rights of parents who do want their children exposed to things in schools, right? It's not just the parents who don't, but the parents who do. And that's the vast majority of parents. And
by the way,
I think using speech to overcome that fear is one of the most important things we can do in a democracy.
We asked you several months ago, it made me think about turning these things around, is that the religion that's being protected now is certain people's religion and their idea of what religion should be like.
Right.
And there was some suit, and I haven't heard anything more about it, from I think it was a Jewish group saying, "What about our religion?
We're the Jewish women in Florida, I think."
Yes,
on
and
abortion
saying
rights.
yes. So the Supreme Court eventually is going to have to decide whose religion matters more.
And that's why it's so important. And we in Massachusetts, where the federal constitution was based on our constitution, our state constitution, written by John Adams. And the most important reason that we have freedom of religion and from religion is that there's not one religion.
Right.
People want to have the right to have any religion or no religion.
But isn't that what's happening?
And that's what's happening.
All these shove my religion down your throat. I mean,
exactly.
It's not freedom of religion. It's mandating that someone else's religion
has to have my
dictate
religion.
your order. So
yours. And so that's
where's
why
the
it's
suit
important to
on
have that. It's still moving its way through the courts as far as I know, Marjorie. I don't know specifically, and I can find out and let you know.
But they can't really. Is Supreme Court, as conservative as they are, going to say that Christianity is better than Judaism?
Yes,
or better
of course
than Islam?
they are. And they're not going to phrase it that way.
They won't say it
they
directly, but they'll move in that. They seem to be basing a lot of their decisions on their own personal religious views, yes.
So we only have a couple minutes left. Marjorie, I'm sure, doesn't care about this because she's fine with cameras being everywhere. You are.
I don't want them outside my window.
Well, apparently, tell us about
in.
this case before the Supreme Court. And it seems to me the Civil Liberties Union's position is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that putting a camera on a post outside your house trained on your entranceway 24/7, that's one thing. But having a cop staked out there for, let's say, 4 hours a night, that's okay, but the around-the-clock thing is not okay? Is that what the argument is?
No. I think the argument is really that there's a Fourth Amendment right that if the police want to put a surveillance camera in front of your residential home, as they did with our client, Ms. Moore, out in Springfield, who lived on a quiet residential street, they were trying to see if they could get her daughter. They were not looking for her, but for her daughter. And they put a poll camera out that monitored 24/7 that could zoom in, which a police officer doesn't get to zoom in and see your facial expressions and look in your windows and look in your garage and look in your garden.
That's a good point.
And 24/7 for 8 months without a warrant. And so basically what we're saying is you need to get a warrant. If somebody really deserves that level of surveillance, you should be able to get a warrant, which is not actually a particularly hard thing to do.
Why were they looking for the daughter?
Drug thing.
Yeah, for drugs. And so what's interesting is that the courts across the country are really split on this, and even the First Circuit Court of Appeals here in Massachusetts split 3-3, which is why we're now asking the Supreme Court to take this up. We'll find out next Tuesday whether they're going to do it or not. Whether they're going to take the case as a Supreme Court case. But given that the courts are all over the place.
How can they not take the case if the federal appellate courts are divided?
Well, there's lots of things the Supreme Court doesn't do. Today's theme is, if only the Supreme Court did what I wanted.
Can I tell you something? A bigger problem for you than Clarence Thomas is Marjorie Egan. Her general position is, your general position is, it's over. The cameras are everywhere, and so just live with it.
Well, I'm not as upset as you are when they have cameras out in public, like they have corner Beacon Street and some other street like that. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but how would you feel if it's a camera just targeting your home?
Absolutely
everybody
not.
coming and
Absolutely
going 24/7 without a warrant.
Well, it has to be a public place to me where you're in view of other people on the street. That doesn't upset me the way it upsets you. And also, sadly, it does catch criminals.
Well,
you could argue that lots of violations would catch criminals. So
look what caught the marathon bombers, Jim.
Those were private cameras, by the way. Those were not government cameras.
That's not. Yeah, I was going to say the public cameras got them on the wrong dog chasing down the wrong path. It actually slowed them down.
But cameras got them.
No, I don't think that's what did ultimately get them.
I think it did. They saw them on cameras from that restaurant.
Yeah, well, I think the bottom line is some kind of cameras, things like at ATM machines, right? There's no problem with that kind of a thing, as long as they have policies in place that make sure they're not tracking them. But to put a camera out in front of your house,
that's different.
And to surveil you 24/7, everyone who comes, everybody
that's
you see,
different.
Everywhere, that's just clearly unconstitutional.
Well, that's the difference for me. That's your private life as opposed to your life in public on the street.
Yeah.
I think you're out in public, right? Can't walk down the street naked, Jim.
What, are you suggesting I have? Is that your point?
I don't know.
I caught you on camera.
Well, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Carol Rose, it's nice to see you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Carol Rose.
Speaking of Carol Rose, Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union, coming up. Boston Pop's conductor Keith Flockhart joins us in studio here at the library. That is next on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
You know, our colleague just said you don't have to give much, and in this case, she is totally right. $10 a month gets you an annual online subscription to two of the greatest newspapers in the world, the Washington Post or the New York Times. The critical thing, other than what's offered, is that offer expires in an hour and 29 minutes at 2 o'clock. If you're interested in either for yourself, your kid, your grandkid, your niece, your whatever, you got to call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and it's sort of a twofer. You not only get a fabulous publication online, unlimited access for a year, but you support something that I assume matters to you too, because you're listening right now. That would be GBH News. Correct, Marjorie?
That is absolutely correct,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Absolutely correct. $10 a month, New York Times or Washington Post digital subscription. I don't think you will regret it. As we say a million times, why not say it again, Marjorie? If we didn't have these occasional fun drives, what we would be doing would be playing commercials, 6 and 7 minutes long, 3 times an hour. We did that when we were in commercial radio, when it's really horrible to do, and you're selling things, and Jim was selling virility pills, and he denies
I was
it, but
not
he was.
selling virility
It was
pills.
very embarrassing for all concerned. Thank God we don't have to do that anymore because we're not doing commercials anymore. So the number is 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is where you can give securely. And we do appreciate everybody who takes the time to contribute and people that take the time to listen. And if you've been listening for a long time and you haven't contributed, this may be the time to do it. For $10 a month, I said, great deal. Washington Post or New York Times digital subscription. In the case of the New York Times, all those great games and all those great recipes. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Believe it or not, that is Boston Mayor Michelle Wu playing Mozart on the piano at Symphony Hall over the weekend for this fabulous concert for the city. She has really raised the stakes for someone who is a leader of that. It's our next guest, who's recruited the likes of Guster, travel guru Rick Steves, and the thing I'm really excited about, Broadway stars to do Ragtime. Yes, spring is in bloom for the Boston Pops. And here Bloomin' himself is the forever young conductor of the Boston Pops. One of our favorites, I should say. Keith Lockhart. Keith, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Jim came back raving about
unbelievable.
the concert for the city at Symphony Hall and raving about the fact that the mayor, who has a pretty busy job and has 2 little kids, can get up there and play that theme from Elvira Madigan. Remember that tearjerker music with the lovers, the murder, suicide?
It's the most famous Mozart slow movement in the entire repertoire. I thought you were going to play Name That Tune with me. I thought that was what was going to happen.
How humiliating would that have been if you didn't know?
That would have been bad.
That would have
been. I'd have to get back my conducting license.
Can I just say one more thing about the concert for the city? Because you and Andres Nelsons and Wu and all your colleagues deserve huge credit. There was a sold-out kind of thing. It was a free concert. Every seat was full, a really diverse and wonderful audience. I would argue a lot of people who probably don't spend a lot of time at Symphony Hall.
I think that seemed clear, and it always makes me, both glad we did it and then wishing that we could constantly find that way to bring everybody in to hear this, because
and you guys,
it belongs to everybody.
And to your credit and your colleagues, a ton of the composers were either people of color, women, local types. Chick Corea, which many people may not realize.
Chelsea Mass.
From Chelsea. And could you just say briefly, that was so beautiful. What was the thing you played from Chick Corea?
Well, Chick Corea, as I said, was born in Chelsea, Mass. He appeared with the Pops a few times with me over the years, once with Gary Burton and once with what was left of Return to Forever. And he's a great guy. In fact, I was part of the naming of Chick Corea Square in Chelsea, Mass.
Great.
It was while he was in town that time. And we realized that we didn't have anything in our repertoire outside of the charts we'd played with him that was representative of somebody who was, he was a 27-time Grammy winner. Wow. As transformative a jazz artist as there was in the 20th century for pretty much 6 whole decades. And we thought, well, Spain is the piece that everybody knows. And it's virtuosic and really, and the arrangement we got was stunning, and that was its premiere. We opened it up for the first time the day before, rehearsed it, and then performed it.
The whole day was just spectacular. Congratulations to you and your colleagues. It was a beautiful day, and I hope you do it again soon.
Thanks, felt good.
You know, just a quick aside about Symphony Hall. I always forget if his name is John Maloney or John Mahoney, but he's a comedian. He's a writer.
Mulaney.
Thank
Close
you.
enough.
Okay, third
Neither.
time's a charm. Mulaney. Thank you. That's right. That's right. Anyway, they just have a Netflix special that was filmed at Symphony Hall. And when you see it on television, I mean, you see Symphony Hall when you're there, how beautiful it is, all the statuary, the beautiful organ,
pipes.
The pipes.
Yeah, but what are they made out of? What are they made out of?
Alloy.
Yeah, but they look gold. They look spectacular, and you see that in different light. When I saw it on this Netflix thing, and I thought, it is a spectacular place. I mean, the acoustically and it's a beautiful place.
It is a gorgeous space, and even more so when it's got music in it, which is what it was born for.
So Keith Langhorne, or whatever his name is, Lockhart, I'm sorry.
Mulaney. Brian Bell told me because he was there with me at the concert.
I have to say,
Keith Langhorne.
Whoever he is.
Yeah, I got introduced to Keith as Keith Haring once.
This spring thing, I think, is spectacular. Can you start at the beginning with Ragtime, which I saw years ago in New York City, and in my opinion, I'm sure yours, a perfect piece for the time.
I can, actually, and we open on Friday, this Friday, the 12th, with 3 performances of Ragtime in concert, the Broadway musical reimagined to fit that huge epic onto a concert stage and into 2 hours. And it was actually reimagined by the creators, by Stephen Flaherty and Lynn Ahrens, who are good friends of us at the Boston Pops, and also by Terrence McNally, who was a Broadway legend, one of the first people I knew who actually died in the COVID crisis. But he had done this in preparation for our May 2020 anticipated performances of Ragtime. But this, in a way, we now get to do it, of course, as a memorial to him, but also it's the 25th anniversary of it opening on Broadway in 1998. And we get the opportunity to put on a show that I think it seems like it could have been written for today, as opposed to 110, 120 years ago. E.L. Doctorow's book about different groups within American society, all in their differing experiences with the pursuit of the American dream, is really fascinating. And you see, I mean, there is all these things that are on our minds and in our hearts these days: police brutality, systemic racism. All of those things are, it really, it makes you realize that these are not new problems, and nor have they gone away. But it's also just a wonderful, make it sound so heavy, it's a wonderful, life-affirming score, brilliantly written. It's really a masterpiece, and I really hope that everybody gets a chance to see that.
I think it's spectacular. We're talking to Keith Lockhart about the spring season of the Pops, which starts this Friday.
Well, tell us some more. I know you got Guster coming, but you got a lot of other things coming.
We do have a lot of things. Well, he said start at the beginning, so I should just go laboriously through the whole thing.
That's right. Go through the whole thing.
Well, I'll tell you, we're continuing a series we've had called The Roots of Jazz, where we really explored not only play some jazz tunes, but where these things come from, how they fit in societally, over how they mirrored the American experience for the last 130-odd years. The Titans of the Trumpet, we have Byron Stripling joining us, an amazing jazz trumpet player who inhabits every great trumpet player from Louis Armstrong to Miles Davis and pretty much everybody in between. And this is a new program that Byron and I devised. We're continuing our John Williams film score series with the third of the first trilogy, movie number 6, if you're counting, Return of the Jedi, shown in high def in Symphony Hall with the entire score played live by yours truly and the Boston Pops, and it's an amazing way to experience the movie. It's it's more sense around than the IMAX.
And what do you do when you have the movies? Do you still bring down that big, huge screen?
We bring out a big, huge screen.
Which is pretty cool.
It is a very cool screen. And, these days with the multiplexes and stuff, you don't see things on that big a screen anymore. What else are we doing? Disney Princesses, the concert. Which is 2 matinees, a great way for people to bring out our youngest potential audience members to join us. And this show is amazing. It's 3 Broadway stars, including Susan Egan, who was the first Belle in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, and a Disney prince, of course, to go with the princesses. And it's really, you may think, well, what an old-fashioned concept, but it really, Disney has done a really great show that goes from the classic Snow White, Cinderella type princesses to the much more, how shall we say, activist and independent princesses of more recent films.
Yeah, there's one. I mean, that is really true, isn't it? The old princesses, you had to wait till the prince came along and kissed them and woke them up from. All changed.
Moana is not that person.
No, and neither is Belle. I mean, she's very.
Exactly.
It's
wonderful. Before we keep going down the list, I think you said the other day when you were speaking at the concert, 28 years you've been doing this?
Afraid so.
And 22 more, and you'll be right there with Arthur Fiedler.
22 more.
22
Only
more.
22 to go.
So does this, I know you're tired of this kind of question, but does this get old ever, or does the fact that all the programs...
What, being asked whether I'm going to make it 22 more years?
I'm serious.
I mean, aspects of any job get old after a while, but this job is constantly renewing because it's constantly new music, it's constantly new audiences to engage. It's a really self-perpetuating kind of thing. And the funny thing about being number 2, I'm the 20th conductor of the Boston Pops. I have the second longest tenure, but I've had the second longest tenure for over half my tenure.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
I beat the wonderful John Williams about 10 years ago.
It's a great job. I would want it. They'd have to drag me out of there if I had your talent and your job.
There is no way. I mean, and I say this now. You can quote me. There is no way I'm going to do 22 more years.
Yeah.
I don't think that sounds either good for.
But
it doesn't sound good for me or the institution.
Talk about the physical toll, though. I mean, there's a lot of arm, shoulder stuff going on there, right? And back stuff.
It all feels a lot harder than it did pre-pandemic. I think a lot of us, I feel like I not only put on 15 pounds, I also put on like 10 years during that period of time. It does get harder. I mean,
physical.
it's just, and in seasons like the spring season of the Pops, where we're doing, like 8 different programs in 5 weeks, and there's just always a pile of music to study, and then you're constantly on the podium. It really does. It was easier 20 years ago.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, but you know what
parts
the
of it were
difference is?
easier.
Nobody doesn't like you to use a double negative. I'm serious. I mean, that's one of the beauties of your. No,
I can think of a couple.
You can. Oh, they're right there, actually.
they came down today.
They're carrying the Down with Keith signs.
We got to take a break, Marjorie.
Oh, we have to take a
We're going to
break.
hear more about the spring season in a second.
Okay, we are talking to Keith Lockhart from the Boston Pops about what's going on this spring at the Pops. Going to be speaking with him a little bit more right after this quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Can I say a couple things here? We appreciate everybody who gives anything they can afford, but there are a couple of donors whose message troubles me. For example, Mary from Dorchester just made a contribution. Her comment is, I don't want Marjorie to get fired. That's only half the story, thank you. And then Robert from Toland also is troubling. Do I get to vote on which one stays, Jim or Marjorie? The answer is
it could be,
you do not.
It could be you, Jim, that they want to get fired.
I don't think so.
Or it could be me that they want to get fired. It could be I
Exactly.
guess.
The number to give, if you are of that mind, is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Here's another nice one from Laura in Marion who
What'd she
says,
say?
It's been hard to, quote unquote, pace the rage over the past 8 years. Thank you for your excellent news coverage, commentary, and senses of humor. It really means a lot when people send those messages to us. Those are people who contributed today, and they get their digital subscription to the New York Times or the Washington Post for their $10 a month contribution. I mean, we are pretty lucky to have these jobs, just like Keith Lockhart is pretty lucky to have his job, and you kind of
He's got to do it for
appreciate
22 more years, though. That's going to be quite a grind.
That's right. We don't have to conduct right. Thank
Whereas,
goodness.
depending on how the fundraiser goes, you guys may have to do it
That's
for much longer.
Hanging by a thread.
That's
you
a
never
great
know.
new incentive.
Isn't that a great new incentive?
For some,
That's right.
not for all.
You can only get the subscription until 2 o'clock. We have like an hour and 15 minutes
you
left
get
in
to
our
vote
show.
on-
That's right.
It's like
and then
it's like a radio cage match.
that's right. Voting off the island. You know what I mean? Survivor. That's
What's
what we
the
call
number?
it. All right. The number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the library speaking with the great Keith Lockhart, conductor for 28 years of the Boston Pops.
So tell us what else is going on.
Well, we're doing the premiere of a new program that two of my favorite pianists in the world, from two different parts of my career, I suppose. Michael Feinstein, like the living gatekeeper of the American songbook, an amazing vocalist, performer, and just so knowledgeable. And the great French pianist Jean-Yves Thibaudet, who is one of my go-to classical best friends. I've teamed up and decided to do a concert for two pianos, twice the fun, that will start with Gershwin, but it really goes throughout Gershwin and his world. And we're premiering the orchestral version of that concert in Symphony Hall. And then I'm toddling over to the Cleveland Orchestra to do it with them later this summer.
Do Steinway still reign supreme in the piano world?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Because you've got really huge ones, right? That's not the kind of Steinway you'd have in your house. 9-foot Steinways.
Somebody might have them in the house, but I don't have a big enough living room for that. So,
one of the great things about your seasons, I know you know this, and I assume most people do, is the creativity in the programming is spectacular. I know you know. I mean, for example, we were told by one of our monthly guests that he will be appearing with you in the spring season. Rick Steves.
Oh, Rick Steves, yes.
Explain what that's, I think that is brilliant.
Well, I have to say, it's been really great getting to know Rick because we've been talking, but he appeared in Symphony Hall with the Pops a few years before the pandemic, and but I wasn't lucky enough to do that concert. I was away somewhere else. And we started doing this, and I said, yeah, I love the idea because who has better travel videos than Rick Steves? I mean, and I said, this really goes with music, and this is a real way to show people what's behind the music. And this particular program is about late 19th century musical nationalism, composers finding cultural identities, breakdown of like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and and the Czech voices saying, we have a music and a people, and we are not German, and et cetera, et cetera. And we started talking about different reps, some rep that he did not know that would fit those things, I thought, even better. And this gives us a chance to play what really is at the core of what a great orchestra plays, which is great music that was composed for
Is
orchestra.
he playing, by the way? He's played piano for us on the radio.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
He hasn't offered to yet.
Ask him. I mean, I think he's really good.
We've been talking back and forth for the last few months, and the funniest thing about this was that he went on vacation, but he was still very eager to talk to me. He's very intense,
Very intense.
And so he calls me from vacation, and he says, so try to call me back in this window. I called and I talked, and I said, so the very first question is, where does Rick Steves go on vacation? And he said,
what was his answer?
He said, I'm in Arkansas. That was the most disappointing answer, perhaps. That
Not for Sarah Huckabee Sanders, by the way. Hey, one of the nice things, I hope I don't get this wrong, but I remember from having been before in the spring, isn't this where you don't sit in a regular seat, but you have these little tables and you can drink and eat and that sort of deal?
Symphony Hall was built in 1900 to allow both of those things to happen. And actually, I was just over there before I came here, and they're in the middle of the transformation now. So the small tables sit 5 to 6.
Really fun.
And we try to make it a complete social experience and not just a concert to listen to.
Can I ask you about one more thing? We've had them here, and I think they're going to be with us actually sometime in June. When they're Guster, local guys, Tufts guys, they're doing something with you too.
They are. They're coming back to us for the first time. This really makes me know how long I've been here. They were one of the first kind of edgy pops, of indie rock kind of things that we brought in. And that was 17 years ago that they were last with us. And they have a huge and really big fan base.
Yeah, they
in
do.
town.
Very passionate.
And they follow them everywhere, and that concert is doing really, really well. I can't wait to see him again.
So how does that work with a band and an orchestra?
Well, for one thing, you need music that's interesting enough to bother adding an orchestra to it,
Yep.
and they do have that. And then they have to let go of parts of what they would normally play and let the orchestra take that. But for people who are intellectually curious, and that's one, I think, the things about Guster is they're four very smart guys.
They are smart guys.
So you can do something really interesting because the timbres that are available to you with an orchestra are just, the palette is so wide.
And who does that? Is it the arranger that arranges?
Right.
Like you had that incredible arrangement of the 12 Days of Christmas that people have been talking about for years and years
Arrangers
and
and orchestrators.
Yeah, but that's really hard.
Yeah, that is. That's a good part of what composition is all about. But what you don't understand often is that in Broadway and in pop composition, those people are separate usually. Obviously, Beethoven did his own orchestration. So does John Williams, by and large.
Really? I didn't know that.
You know, can we step back from this for a minute? Marjorie was really shocked this morning when she read a piece about you in Boylston Magazine. And she had a question. She may be too shy to... Are you too shy to ask the question?
I'm always the last to know.
Yeah.
She wanted to know about the style sheet.
Keith Lockhart has a beautiful head of hair.
You do, Keith.
And apparently there's been a lot of speculation all
it's
around New
actually
England,
very
that's
nice.
right,
Very
about
nice.
whether only his hairdresser knows for sure, if it's Root Rescue or if it's a little Clairol.
Do you know how many times I've been asked that? I
bet a lot.
Rudely, I think.
Yeah.
I think if I'm
how many times
I'm not
did you
sure if I
lie?
was a woman that they would ask me that question, but they're very.
I'm Root Rescue,
They're
I'll
like,
tell you
oh,
right
come
now."
on, you do something to it. I publicly declare, as I did in the style sheet in Boston Magazine, no, what I do to my hair is shampoo it every day. That's
Wow.
Well,
the
there you
only
go.
thing that is done to it. I had my maternal grandfather started going gray at about 82,
Oh, okay,
83.
so it's in the genes.
So,
Although I think you
feel
look very
lucky.
handsome with the salt and pepper thing going on,
Well,
too.
I'll see. I
think so.
could add it.
Yeah, you could.
Sometime in the next 22 years, that's going to happen.
Richard Gere kind of look, you know what I mean?
You know, Keith, I know you're tired of me bringing this up too, but you know, you're here. Every year you screw us on the July 4th thing. And what you basically say, and
That was more direct than you've been in the past.
well, except basically what Keith says, I can't say anything yet about who's going to perform on July 4th. And then he says, but I'll let you know. And then he lets us know by having a press conference where everybody knows.
So you want an exclusive?
We would like an exclusive.
Okay.
Now, okay, so that went well. Do you know who it's going to be yet, or you don't know?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Come on.
No.
Spell it backwards. Come on. What is the problem?
Boy, I get.
We've been nice
grilled.
to you through the years, sort of.
You've been great most of the
Yeah.
time.
Most of the time,
Except for,
yeah.
this moment.
this topic.
I think maybe I've heard Keith on another few radio stations.
I have.
as
I know,
well.
and it
You know, I
pisses
think
me
we're not
off, I gotta
exclusive
tell
here.
you.
But let me ask you, when do you announce it? How close to the holiday do you usually announce it?
We are doing an announcement at the end of May with a future, another one coming in early June because
Yep.
we have an exclusivity thing that we can't announce something until a certain period of time
Okay.
because of the group involved performing here.
Oh.
So
But you have
maybe
to-
you can figure it out that way.
But you have to make the arrangements way in advance.
We have to make the arrangements way, but we do have a lineup, and I think it's a really good one. I thought you were going to talk about, Christmas tree shops.
We're going to get to that. Before we do,
the Christmas tree shop. Do you have any
Wordle?
Wordle, that's right. Do you have any fond memories of the Christmas tree shop? We're going to talk about that with listeners afterwards.
I'm devastated. It's hard to imagine a world without, either Bed Bath & Beyond.
Exactly.
Or Christmas tree shops is worth living in.
It's very distressing to us all, especially, Mother's Day is coming up this weekend. You get the Greatest Mom in America mug for only like 50 cents. That's going to be all over pretty
Bed Bath
soon.
& Beyond is like my favorite store because you could literally get just about anything.
You could.
So what do you have in your house from either of those places, Keith Lockhart?
The biggest collection from the Christmas tree shops, the most recent lamented loss, the biggest collection of kitschy Christmas stuff and things that wind up in her battery operated and sing, Holly Jolly Christmas.
That's really...
that you can imagine.
That's really
and
touching.
snow globes.
It's really
we have
nice.
snow
Those
globes.
are really
20 snow
good.
globes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're $1.95. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's going to be real devastating. I don't know where we're going to go. Ocean State Job Lot. I don't know.
Oh, it's just not the
dollar
same.
store. It's
The
not the
saddest
same.
story, the most moving story I've heard is actually from Jamie, our lead producer, who said this morning, his attitude is when he goes to the Christmas tree shop, if the item he's picked off a shelf has is not broken by the time he gets to the cashier. He feels like it's a great day.
Well, that's good. That's a good way to test it out.
So, this spring thing is fabulous. I mean, it's really fabulous.
We're really excited. We hope everybody comes and joins us. It is, I think it's an amazing lineup.
And I don't want to play favorites, but I have to say, having seen Ragtime, caring about the message in addition to the fabulous stuff in it, that is a great thing to kick this thing off with. That is brilliant, and we wish you a lot of luck.
That'd be my pick, too.
And it's wonderful to see you.
Thank you very much for being with us,
Keith.
We appreciate it. We've been speaking with Keith Lockhart, conductor for the Boston Pops. For tickets and more on the Pops spring season, visit bso.org/pops. And if you've not been to the Boston Pops, you are really missing out. You got to get down there, sit in one of those little tables, have a couple of snacks, a couple of cocktails.
Much more, I have to say, I hope it helps. It's much more fun when you have a little table thing. And you have a drink, something to eat. It's a great night out. It's a wonderful night out.
And you will not believe how talented Keith is and the musicians are and the people he has performing with. It's just an unbelievable night.
And just before you break, Keith just passed me a note and says he will give us an exclusive on July 4th. He'll be back. I really appreciate that. We'll see you later in May. It's the last time he's ever been on this show, let me tell you right now. But it was good to have you. Thank you, Keith.
Coming up next, we were just talking about the closing of the Christmas tree shop. Not all of them, but the one on the way to the Cape near the Sagamore Bridge. That's going on. I don't know what's going on up in Saugus. Do you know on Route 1?
I do not.
Anyway, we're going to open the lines to hear from you about your great moments at the Christmas tree shop. Where will you go for your kitsch and inexpensive decor now? I mean, where can you get all these wonderful things for 50 cents? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Boston Public Radio. Live, local conversations. Every day brought to you by listener support. Now it's your turn to keep the conversation going with a contribution in any amount. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
You know, yesterday when we were talking about that embarrassing video that Tom Brady did about himself and Secretariat, we were talking about how hard it is to say good things about yourself for most people. And I also said the one exception, the only time we do this, I hope you know it's true, is during pledge, when some of you are kind enough to make the most, not only generous contributions, but generous comments. Listen to this. So proud of my kids who are growing up listening to GBH. That's Sukesh from North Andover. Here's another one. Jane from Chelmsford, adding to my existing long-time contribution. Rich from Boston, listening to BPR is the one thing I look forward to every day. I mean, that is so rich. That is really, really nice thing to say. Thank you all.
Yeah, and then David from Bedford, love GBH, especially Jim and Marjorie. They kept me sane during the last election, and I need their continuing therapy for the upcoming election. Thank you very much. Well, David, that really makes us happy, and thank you to everybody who contributed and took the time to write something
Here's
nice.
somebody, and I want to answer this. Scott from Tewksbury apparently texted with a question. A lot of people have. If I donate, can some of the money go towards getting a ChatGPT version of Marjorie to replace Jim? 2 Marjories would make this amazing show even better. Scott, here's what we'll do. You give the $1,000 first, and then we'll let you know.
We're working on it, Scott.
We're working on it.
Thank you very much. That makes me feel very good. You know, feeds my insecurities quite well. Anyway, we are asking, as we always do, a couple of times a year. I guess it's 3 times a year, maybe 4 times a year.
Not many.
To contribute to the continuing health of WGBH, because we have shows that go on 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We're on 15 hours a week, but we have people on, in the morning, afternoon, all weekend long, 24 hours. It's a lot of time to fill, and it's very expensive. So The government is not supporting this station to any great degree. More than 70% of our money comes from small contributors, people like you who are very generous with your money. It comes from foundations and stuff like that. It's not like the federal government is driving up and unloading cash in front of One Guest Street in Brighton. They certainly are not. So if you like what you hear, and we're happy to hear that some people do, this is a great time to donate. $5 once, $10 once, or if you can swing a little bit more, $10 per month gets you the online subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times. It's an annual online subscription as a thank you gift. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
I think we're leaving a wrong impression, but we're attempting to disabuse those who believe of the notion that most of our money comes from the government, and we both use the statistic that 70% of our budget comes from listener support, but that doesn't mean 30% comes from the government. It's a small single-digit number. It's individuals and foundations, nonprofits, organizations like that make the difference here, so you can help make the difference, and we hope you decide to join those wonderful people that wrote those beautiful notes that we read a couple of minutes ago. The number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. I say it every day during Pledge. Hopefully you're not giving just because of the gift, even though the gift today, the Times or the Washington Post is great. I hope you're giving because you like the work that you hear our colleagues providing 24/7, as I said, 7 days a week here, and we hope that's the motivation.
Jay from Attleboro says, I became a sustainer on the Eton Crank Radio Day, but I think I should get a say in who stays and who goes, because you literally work for me, albeit in a small sense.
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Trusted, local, news. You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marge Regan, Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at facebook.com/GBH News. And we're back on Friday with the mayor. Mayor Wu joins us for an hour. 12:30 to 1:30 on Friday, Jamie? Is that what it is? 12:30 to 1:30. Mayor Wu will be here, who again performed Mozart so beautifully at Symphony Hall on Sunday. I think it was Sunday. It was a great concert for the city. We'll talk to her about that too. So the Christmas tree shops, as we just discussed with Keith Lockhart, a bastion of last-minute disposable beach towel purchases on the way to the Cape and off-season holiday bargains year-round. It's closing the iconic Sagamore location near the bridge and 9 other locations around the country. Company chair Mark Solkovitz, is his name, said in a press release that, quote, customers will see no disruption in service or product quality. Well, that's a relief, because we all know that product quality is what really brought you to the Christmas tree shops. That was a joke, by the way. So with the Sagamore Christmas tree shops windmill in the rearview mirror I think Keith said when he left in June sometime is when it's happening. We're opening the lines and asking you to share your most heartfelt memories of the cheap crap you bought at the Christmas tree shops. What else in today? Well, I don't have to read anything more. 877-301-8970. That mommy sippy cup, the last-minute Kentucky Derby party decor that dissolves almost as soon as the horses get out of the starting gate. It really is cheap, but people love it. I love it, by the way, and I'll miss it too. 877-301-8970. Are you a Christmas tree denizen? I don't even know.
Because there's one in Hyannis. The original one was in
Is that staying open, Hyannis?
I hope so. The original one was in Yarmouth Port.
I didn't know that.
I've been to the one up in Saugus. When I was young, I bought a bunch of furniture up in the one in Saugus. I bought a kitchen table and 4 chairs because it was really, really cheap. They didn't last that long, but they got me through a tough stretch there. And, there were tables and chairs. I've had signs from them for many years. They talk about the wooden signs that say, let's be mermaids, or when you wish upon a starfish, kind of, it was originally about Christmas, but there's summer signs too. And I have this way to the beach sign down the Cape at my parents' house, and I've had it for like 20 years.
Let me ask you something. I hadn't thought about this in a serious way. Yeah. If you need to get a wooden sign that says, let's be mermaids, where are you going to get it?
Absolutely.
After the Sagamore stuff
Well, what's going
to
replace? I don't know. Ocean State Job Lot, the dollar store? I'm not sure.
Have you ever bought anything that lasted more than a week from the Christmas tree shop? Honestly.
My signs. Beach towels.
They really are?
I bought beach towels there. Yep, forever. I bought dish towels there.
They're like tissue
paper.
They
sell towels that say, whip it real good. That's it. the leprechaun
You own
nutcrackers.
a towel that says "Whip It Real Good"?
I don't, but you can buy one there if you want one. Fake plants, Jim. If you want to get some plastic
Nothing
plants,
like a fake
that
plant.
is
I'm
the
with
place
you.
for you to go. They've got styrofoam pumpkins, hay wreaths, fine pine wreaths, fake bouquets, flower
gonna be a
arrangements.
great loss.
Lots of people buy wreaths there for their
They
front
do?
door. Yeah, you can get a
Phony
lot of
wreaths,
phony
phony
wreaths,
wreaths.
plastic wreaths.
By the way, let me just say so we don't get
Like they're
angry.
$2.99.
We don't want anybody to lose their job. So it's
We
not
do
about
not.
that. It's just I think the world can operate without one or 9 Christmas tree shops is my take on this.
Apparently, I didn't know it, but they apparently sell obscenely large martini and wine glasses, our
I knew
staff
that.
tells us, so I did not
I
know
knew that. The big ones. Yeah, 877-301-8970. This is going to be a nostalgic next 15 minutes or so with people telling your favorite stories about great moments at the Christmas tree. By the way, I learned this morning, it's not the Christmas tree shop, it's Christmas tree shops. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Individual stores
Yeah,
called
I
shops.
don't know why.
Plural. Well, they say it in one of the stories. Something about there were a number. I don't know what it is. Who cares? Let's go to Steve in Plymouth. You're first on Boston Public Radio. What's your deal?
Thanks, Jim, for having me.
Pleasure.
Jim, the birth of the stores should be foremost in people's mind. Chuck and Doreen Belazikian, the founders of the shops, they sort of ventured down the Cape after recently married, and they somehow came upon an abandoned railroad train, just a single train, and they opened it up, bought it, and inside was all this knickknack. And it was just at the time that the Cape, because of the Kennedys, was just becoming a favorite place in Massachusetts.
How do you know the history,
And,
Steve? How do you
Because
know
they're
this?
his cousins.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh, I'm
They're
sorry. Wow, are they
And,
really your cousins?
I'll send you the birth certificate.
I believe you if you say it.
Yeah, so it was kismet, but they were terrific buyers, and they traveled the world over, going to Far East, Japan, China, wherever, to buy valuable items that people would want to have in their sex homes on the Cape.
Well, I think valuable items is a bit of a stretch. Now, Steve, before you go, what's your favorite item from a Christmas tree shop?
We have a Thanksgiving, a family event, more than 100 people come, and they always offer items on a raffle. And 20 plus years ago, I got a table. It's still in my foyer.
Wow.
There
you go. Do you have a Whip It Real Good dish towel, Steve?
No, I don't have that. But let me tell you, you never have enough wicker in your house.
That's right.
That is Steve,
right.
that is the line of the day.
You never
Thank you for your
have
call.
enough wicker, and if
Never.
you want some more, where do you go to get the wicker? You get it at the Christmas tree shop.
Shops,
Thank you, Steve, for that. Shops,
plural.
Christmas tree shops.
Yes.
That's a great call, Steve.
He's
Thank you very
related to
much.
them, the founders.
Yeah.
That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and so. Is Steve gone?
Steve's
gone.
gone, yes,
Okay,
he
I'm
is
trying to
gone.
read the
It's
email
beautiful
here.
what he
so
had to say.
So pay
Text.
attention over there.
I'm paying attention.
I'm trying to read the text.
Oh, you are?
Yes, I am.
Well, we're talking about the Christmas tree shops, and the reason we are, they did Chapter 11. Is that what they're doing? They're reorganizing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. And they're closing 9 of, I think they have 80 stores, whatever it is. And we know for a fact that Sagamore, which I think to most of us is the most memorable. That's
Because the windmill, right by
right
the bridge.
Well, it's also because you were going right over the bridge.
Yeah.
It's right there, yeah.
Listen to this. This is Amelia in Marshfield.
What'd she
I,
say?
for one, am not sad to see the Christmas tree shops on the decline. I'm a minimalist at heart, a result of my mother's love of the Christmas tree shops. She spent loads of time and money in there buying what my father coined next year's yard sale items.
Well, you know, what's her name? What's her name?
Amelia.
What a lot of people do, Amelia, which actually saves time and reduces clutter, is you buy the item at the Christmas tree shop and then you just put it right in the garbage when you walk to save, and you don't lose more than $1 or something.
No, it's
so
not
it saves
true.
time.
I've had
By the
beach
way, I stole
towels.
that line from Jamie, but it is a pretty good line. Yeah.
I've had beach towels and signs from there for many years. I've bought beach
You have not.
chairs.
That is just
Yes,
not true.
I have.
Have you ever used the towel? No.
Yes. I
You've
take
used
it
it.
to the beach. The Christmas tree
I don't
shops
believe that.
sells sells beach towels.
Do you have any
Jim.
styrofoam pumpkins? Yes or no?
I don't know how many styrofoam pumpkins. I don't know how many plastic
Did you say
flowers.
pumpkins?
Pumpkins.
Oh, I think you said pumpkins.
No. Judy from Jamaica Plain says,
What'd she say?
Xmas tree shop. Oh, no. So many great items. My best get was a hard-to-find, tall, skinny bathroom cabinet for about $40.
Wow.
Was at least double elsewhere.
That's
and that's the
beautiful.
point. That's why I bought my kitchen table there, because
Yeah.
it was so much cheaper than every place
Sure,
else.
it's really nice.
Margaret in the car, thank you for
Hey.
calling.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good,
Hi.
thank you.
Good, good. So it's funny. My sister and I were just talking about this the other day, that when we were little, starting in 1962, we grew up in Syracuse, and we would drive all the way to Wellfleet for our vacation.
That's
Wow.
great.
And actually, my family still goes. So, but anyway, the second day we were there, it would be my mother's pilgrimage to go to the Christmas tree shop in Orleans.
Wow.
To get candles and napkins with
Oh,
starfish
right, of course,
on
there's
them.
one in Orleans,
and-
right.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was really fun. And my sister and I were just talking about it last week.
Well,
If our mom was still alive, she'd be 102.
Well, thinking of your mom, and that's a beautiful recollection. Margaret, thank you for sharing with it. Bill Taylor tweeted us and said he was watching the coronation, and his wife, in her Boston accent, said, "Don't know what to make of that chair the king is sitting in. It looks like something you could buy at the Christmas tree shops." And it really is true. We have a photo. Can we put the photo up, or we can't put it up? Let's try to put it up. It really does look Christmas tree shop-y, does
Well,
it
you
not?
know, I mean, poor King Charles. Could he have looked more ridiculous?
How
in
about that hat?
crown?
And the hat didn't even fit him.
Yeah, the hat didn't fit him.
What is the
They
name
had
of the guy from the church?
The Archbishop.
The
whatever he is,
Archbishop couldn't
comes
get
in.
it on his
And
head.
you'd think they would have practiced that a little bit better. They're coming in there, putting it forward, backwards,
Yeah.
side. It wouldn't stay on his head.
You know where they got it?
Christmas tree
Christmas
shops.
tree shops.
Absolutely.
Because they only spent $125 million on the coronation, so they couldn't afford a real
Okay,
crown.
Kate Newton says, the outside of the Christmas tree shops alone terrifies me. I've never been, and the world could use a few less landfills.
Wow.
She's
Well,
talking
there's
about,
truth to that. You're a big environmentalist. Doesn't that concern you?
Well, it does, but again, I'm using the beach towels, Jim. I mean, I'm not
saying
throwing
that.
them out. I'm not bringing them to the landfill. They're hanging in. I'm very impressed.
The lines are full, but once again, we're going to violate our rule about taking people in water. If anybody has one or more Whip It Real Good dish towels, we'd like to hear from you. Lori, what motivates some? I'm thinking for a minute. I always try to put myself in the position of somebody else. What is a person thinking who sees a Whip It Real Good dish towel and says, that's really something that I need at my house on the Cape or somewhere else? I mean, really?
They think it's funny, I guess, Jim. They think it's funny.
Wildly funny. Lori in Salem, what's your deal?
Hi, guys.
Hi.
This is Lori in Salem.
I know. Hi,
First
Lori.
time calling it. First time calling in. I'm in the car.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell you about the one thing I ever bought at the Christmas tree shop because my mom loved it.
Mm-hmm.
We were checking out, and I found the most amazing nutcrackers. About
I have a
4.5
nutcracker.
feet tall.
So I just realized. Go ahead.
Do you have one? Yeah.
I mean a literal nutcracker. Yours is 4 feet tall?
No, and I lashed them to the columns in the front of my Swampscott house.
Oh, my God.
And they lasted for years. They were
Oh.
like ceramic, and it was just amazing. And
was?
I just thought I'd share that because it was an awesome find, and people used to drive by and take pictures of them.
Wow.
And, yeah, that's my story.
Now,
about
Lori, how long have you been listening to the show?
Oh, gosh, years.
Okay, what do you think of the fact that this is the topic you chose to make your first call on? What does that say to you?
Because those nutcrackers were so sentimental.
There you go.
I have pictures of my children.
I love it.
Yeah, they were just awesome. Unbelievable.
Well, you're pretty awesome,
when I moved
too.
out of the house, I gave them away.
Great first call. Give us another one soon. I'm sorry, what, Lori?
No, nothing. I'm all done. Just wanted to share that. Thanks, you guys. Enjoy you a lot.
We're really glad you did, and we loved your call. Thanks for making it, Lori.
Now, listen to this. I don't know if this is correct, but one of the texters says the Bourne Sagamore shop, Christmas tree shop, has the largest thatch roof in North America.
Does have a thatch roof.
Does have a thatched roof.
Wow. That's going to be missed.
I did not know that. Okay, let's go to Diane in Fairhaven.
Hey, Diane.
What do you
How
think,
are you?
Diane?
I'm good today, guys.
Nice to talk to you.
Talk to you. Hold on. Okay. I'm 62. I've been going there my whole life.
Yeah.
And by the way, that thatch roof, they brought people in who made them at Plymouth Plantation to do it. Anyhow,
Really? That's interesting.
Ever since Bed Bath & Beyond took them over, started calling it CTS, it's not the same. But every year I have to go. My parents moved to Florida 40 years ago. And I go and get one of those calendars that is just like sketches, and my dad colors it in every year. I get it for him for Christmas, and he loves it. And, yeah, my son has a collection of nutcrackers. I get one every year for him, depending on what he's into. He has one for Gay Pride. He has one for, you name it. He's got 20 of them. But, yeah, I'm going to miss it, just like I miss Denny's. Denny's, do you remember that, Marjorie?
Yeah.
Denny's? Yeah, Denny's, the hamburger joint.
Hey, Diane,
yeah, I
Diane,
do.
what does your father do with 20 nutcrackers?
So that's my son.
Oh, son, sorry.
They're all over the house.
They're over the
He
house.
puts them up for Hanukkah. We have Hanukkah
Oh, that's
ones
good
and
enough.
everything.
Well, that's fine.
But, yeah, nutcrackers.
Diane.
So, no,
Oh, go ahead.
Denny's the store, Marjorie, where you could get everything.
Oh, I don't remember that. I remember the hamburger joint Denny's.
That isn't closed.
Yeah.
That isn't
isn't closed. Diane, thank you very much.
Thank you as always.
That was a great
Oh,
call.
my God. We have somebody with a whippet
towel. Who is the person with the whippet towel?
This doesn't get any better. I mean, this is why you should be pledging this station.
Joan from Boston.
Joan, we've been waiting for you for years.
Yeah.
What's up? What is wrong with you? Come on.
Okay, I know. Okay, first of all the important topics you discussed, I can't believe I'm calling about this.
No, you should be humiliated. But you called. It's too late. Go ahead.
But here's the thing. My sister, we have a little cottage in Rhode Island near the beach, and my sister-in-law brought me a gift of 2 towels. One says, "Whip it real good," and the other one with a picture of a whisk, and the other one says, "Roll with it," with a...
That's great.
A roller?
And now I know where she got them. Yes.
Oh, my God.
So are they like treasured possessions in the Rhode Island house or what, Joan?
Indeed they are, because they hang on the stove, and my sister-in-law, who is lovely, gave them to me to be fun.
Now, Joan, I didn't know that the Whip It Real Good towel has a whip on it, so I assume it's like huge in the S&M crowd. Is that it?
A whisk.
Oh, a whisk.
A whisk.
Oh,
That's right.
I honestly missed.
You thought it was a whip.
I really misheard. That's pretty good.
I think Jim is being self-revelatory
Well,
here.
maybe I'm not.
Who knew?
Hey, Joan,
wow.
I cannot tell you how happy we are that you called. And thank your sister-in-law for her judgment. That's fabulous.
Okay. Jamie, our producer, says that the New York Times reports the thatched roof on the Cursive Street shops in Sagamore at 24,000 square feet is not just the largest in North America, it's the largest in the world,
It is?
according to the Guinness Book of World Records.
What are they going to do with it?
I don't know, but we have another text. Jim used to be called a Provincetown leather merchant.
Yeah.
Now we know the Provincetown leather merchant strikes again with his knowledge of Whip It Good towels with a whip on it.
Don't you think it would sell even better with a whip on it than a whisk? And by the way, on my honor, I thought she said whip. I was not trying to.
Okay.
I thought she said whip instead of whisk.
Okay, Jim.
Okay.
Probably enough said on that topic.
I think not enough at all, actually. But
Lisa
we'll talk
from,
at 2:00.
Lisa from Winchester. Thank
What's
you
your
for
deal,
calling.
Lisa?
Hi there.
Hi.
I've listened to you guys forever.
Thank
and
you.
This is my first time for calling on a real serious subject.
Thank you.
I've never understood people's obsession with Christmas tree shops, and every couple of years I'll let somebody drag me in thinking maybe something new is there.
I so
and
agree with
just
you.
The same landfill waiting to happen. It just is landfill. It's horrible, and it's cheesy, and and I hate if somebody gives me a gift from there and I have to phony smile and say it's adorable.
You just re-gift it. So, Lisa, what do you think? Since you've had friends,
I'd be too embarrassed.
Well, what do you think the allure is for those who are not like you and me, who actually love the joint? What's the attraction? Do you think?
I think they think it's good stuff cheap, but it's really cheap stuff cheap. I don't know.
That's a good line.
I don't know.
Too.
I don't get it. It's like Building 19, but it just doesn't smell as bad.
Okay.
That's a good one, Lisa. Thank you. Building 19, also crap.
Building 19.
I mean, just total crap.
Well, you have to shop.
You get like an Oriental rug for like $3.
You have to shop
how good
judiciously.
can the rug be?
I've bought furniture at Ocean State Job Lot, and we've
You
had
have
it for
not.
Yes,
You
I
have not.
I absolutely have, and I've had it for years.
That is a lie.
It's true. I bought it.
You bought furniture at Ocean?
Yep, I did. I did.
And you use it?
It's outdoor furniture, and I use it, and it's held up all these years. Okay. Here's a couple of texts. Now that the Christmas tree shops are gone, I don't know what my mother's going to do when she suddenly decides we had the wrong shade of plastic tablecloth the morning of Christmas Eve. There you go. My wife bought me a $3.75 pound bag of crushed red pepper 10 years ago, still half full. So.
By the way, our colleague Angelica is going to. We should put up this photo. This is the photo of that. I think his name was Bill Taylor. Tweeted about. This is the photo of the king. And is it not true that whatever he's sitting on throne looks like it's plastic?
It
looks like it's plastic from the Christmas tree shops. You know.
Listen to this. I have one.
And look at that hat on his head. I mean, with all due respect, I know
looks ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Aria from Weston, which is not a cheap town, and also lives in Florida, says, I have a set of dessert plates I got from the Christmas tree shops. I love them. People think they're so fancy and have asked me if they can be put in the dishwasher, and I proudly tell them they were $1 a piece at the Christmas tree shops.
What's her name?
Aria.
Yeah, and if you read the rest of Aria's text, she says, on the dishes is a whip and handcuffs. That's one of the reasons she's really...
The texters are shocked, Jim. One of them just texted to please tell Jim to get his mind out of the gutter. No more whip talk, please.
Can I tell you something? By the way, I just want to be clear. You know this to be true, so don't mock me. Does anybody love a good bargain more than I do?
You do.
I do, but a good bargain of something, like that woman said, it's not cheap stuff, what is it? Good stuff at a cheap price. It's cheap stuff at a cheap price. It's just not high quality. And again, we don't want to see anybody lose their jobs, so we wish them all luck, but the reality is it is what it is.
Well, we have Jessica in Newton. She's a big fan because she says, tchotchke, knickknacks, trinkets in Yiddish. I will miss Christmas tree shops. Only leaves Ocean State Job Lot for retail therapy. And that's the thing. People like to go in there and walk around. Somebody texted a little while ago, said they go in there, they spend an hour walking around filling up their carriage. You know what they do?
No.
They walk out without it. They just leave it there.
That's beautiful.
Isn't
just
that
for the
beautiful?
experience of the
for
shopping.
The experience of going there and loading up.
Can you imagine
really
having a carriage full of Whip It Real Good towels? I mean, that is really
Jim, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas next year. I'm going to order them right away before they're gone.
We got to take a break.
Okay, that's all the time we've got. Coming up, we're going to talk with CNN's John King. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
If you listen to Boston Public Radio 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 720 hours a year. Maybe it's time you pitched in. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
You know, one of the things you do when you're in pledge drive at a public radio station is you say, here are the things you can't get anywhere else. And, you know, obviously on Friday, Mayor Wu is with us for an hour. The governor will be with us in a couple of weeks for an hour. We had Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, for an hour. Keith Lockhart, etc. Those are things we're really proud of. But I would argue, Marjorie, what other show that people can make a pledge to spends time talking about Whip It Real Good towels at the Christmas tree shop?
We
Secretariat.
may be unique in America,
I think
Jim.
we are unique. If you find us and our colleagues unique, which I think we are, I think this station does, and I mean this sincerely, extraordinarily good work. All the time, our colleagues are amazing. And by the way, one of the things we never talk about these things, the behind-the-scenes people without whom these shows do not happen, it's not just rhetoric, they're dependent upon you giving to And if you support the work they do, the support our colleagues do, now's a wonderful time to make a contribution at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And for another 36 minutes, we have a wonderful, what Marjorie calls enticement today. What is it, Marjorie?
It is a digital subscription to either the New York Times or the Washington Post. For $10 a month, you can get that. It's really, I mean, obviously you can read the whole paper on your phone, which is a wonderful thing. Especially
yes, you can.
If you're like an insomniac, you wake up in the middle of the night, you just read the whole paper on your phone, or you can read it when you're waiting in line somewhere. It's just a great, they're two great newspapers, and I think we'd be a lot better off if we supported not just these great newspapers, but newspapers all across the country. Anyway, I want to say thanks to John from Manchester, New Hampshire. Thank you for being the voice of reason on the radio waves. David from Santa Fe, New Mexico, says he loves tuning in every day. And Gregory from Wakefield says, I was just sitting here talking to my wife whether I should subscribe to the New York Times.
Oh, that's great.
Then when you spoke about getting a subscription with a pledge, it became a no-brainer, really. Thanks. That's great, Greg. It makes us feel really good. So we really appreciate people that listen to us. We really appreciate people that take the time to give. We're free. And if you can throw some money toward the expense of running this place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I really appreciate it, especially since, as I always say, if you didn't have these pledge drives, you would have to be listening to commercials, and those are really horrible. So again, 888-897-9424 on offer today for $10 a month. Sustainer membership is a subscription to a digital subscription either to the Washington Post or the New York Times as a thank you gift. If you want to give online securely, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan. Before we introduce John King, Tom from San Diego, I guess he tweeted or texted, says, I have a GBH smug mug, 3 GBH Pilsner glasses. My cabinets are starting to look like a GBH Christmas tree shop. Keep it going. We love you for that, Tom. Thank you. Here's a guy who I'm guessing more than once may have visited a Christmas tree shop.
Think about it.
We're joined on Zoom by CNN's John King, who's being, as always, wildly generous with his time. He's going to be with us till the end of the show. John, it's great to see you.
Happy Tuesday. Yes, when the traffic at the bridge was too crazy to go to the Cape, right there at the Rotary, there's a Christmas tree shop. You could go in there. But the last segment made me really nostalgic for the old Building 19. What was that, Route 53?
Oh, yeah.
Right down there?
Horrible.
Oh, I bought a bunch of rugs.
What'd you buy there,
rugs,
John King?
Rugs,
What'd you buy?
Cheap rugs.
The joke I grew up on King Street in Dorchester, and we moved from a triple-decker to an old Victorian next to us that was in disrepair. And the joke in the King household growing up was, keep moving or else Dad will nail the paneling he got at Building 19 to you. He would go get paneling at Building 19, and we was redoing this house with what little we had, and the paneling was everywhere, and it was not aesthetically charming, shall we say. But yes, we used to always keep moving for fear of getting paneled.
Well, I tell you can get some great buys at Building 19.
Okay.
You really can.
Yes, you
in a lot of areas, curtains, furniture, rugs. I mean, it's really not to be. I mean, it may not smell that good, but what the heck, right?
It is what it is. Yes.
So, John, let's start with the debt limit talks. What's going on with those today? And we're not going to default, I hope, on our debt, are we?
Well, that would be rather catastrophic. And everybody says they don't want that, but they're so far apart right now, Marjorie. I don't know the answer to that question. And so it's good that they're meeting. But everybody's going into the meeting with the same position they had not only a week ago, but a month ago and 2 months ago. The one big difference is the House Republicans have passed a plan, a blueprint for these negotiations. It has zero chance of becoming law. But to their credit, Speaker McCarthy kept them together. A lot of people at the White House thought the Republicans would collapse over this. And then you had 43 Senate Republicans sign a letter saying, we're not going to give you a clean debt ceiling increase, Mr. President. You're going to have to agree, make some deal with the House Republicans on some spending cuts. So both sides think they have leverage going into this. The president's position is, this is your obligation. I'll talk spending cuts later, but you have to give me a clean debt ceiling increase now. And the House Republicans, now with the backing of Senate Republicans, say, no, we won a chamber of the government in the last election. We have leverage. So right now we're in a political stare down. The stakes are pretty enormous. The interesting part, Jim and Marjorie, is there are a handful, maybe a few more than that, of the current House Republicans who think this is all a bluff, who think we could default without major lasting damage to the U.S. economy or the global economy. There are a lot of other traditional Republicans trying to tell them that's nuts. If you want to negotiate, hold firm till the end, please. Try to get something out of the president, those Republicans say. But they are worried that there are at least a handful or more, and remember, Speaker McCarthy can only afford to lose 4 votes, who don't think this is a big deal. And I'm not smart enough to know, but all the smart people I trust say this is a very, very big deal.
John, I don't want to lose the audience, but there was a story in the New York Times the other day saying that some aides to President Biden were recommending that if there's no deal, he conclude that the 14th Amendment, I believe it was, does not even require a raising of the debt limit, that again, the Constitution obviates the need for such a vote, and that he could unilaterally declare that the payment of debts continue. And we should do like we always do with you. This is not about future spending. This is purely to pay the bills that Republicans and Democrats have incurred through the years. It seems to me that if he would do that, not only would it end up in the Supreme Court, but there'd be huge political blowback. Is that even in the cards or no?
I think they have sort of a last page of the notebook, doomsday potential options, and that would be to try to do it on your own, some unilateral way to do it on your own. But that's not the preferred option. It's not the preferred option, number one, because of the volatility it would cause in both the U.S. and then global financial markets. They don't think it's a good option because of the precedent it would take, and set the policy aside for a minute. And policy should be, the policy consequences, the economic consequences should be 99% of this conversation. But guess what? This is Washington. There's always politics. The president's running for re-election. He's the guy who said he was the deal maker who could work on a bipartisan way. And he's the guy who's trying to be a more middle of the road Democrat going into the reelection campaign. So they see both the policy and the political good, if you will, for the president in working this out. But what they are saying today is the president's not prepared to negotiate yet. What he's prepared to tell the speaker is you pass a clean debt ceiling increase, let the government borrow more money, and I will agree at the same time to then negotiate spending cuts as part of the budget process. But the president wants to keep them on 2 pieces of paper, 2 tracks, if you will. The Republicans say, no, we need it all together. The question is, can they figure out some compromise way so that everybody can say they saved face and then get into the negotiations? But I would not expect that out of this first meeting. This seems to be more of a stare down.
We're talking to John King from CNN.
John, I don't have the story in front of me, but there was some pretty bad polling data for the president the other day. And what surprised me more than anything was that something like 55% of Americans think that Trump should be indicted, but like 40% of them...
44.
44, thank you, are going to vote for them. And also when they asked Americans about the honesty of the 2 candidates, expected 2 candidates, Biden and Trump, that... Trump was ahead of Biden. People think he's more dishonest than Biden, but not by that much. I think it was about 8 or 10 points. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of these numbers. I think it's early for the presidential race, I assume. But what do you think?
It is early in some ways, Marjorie. But then if we get the same 2 candidates, is it early? In the sense that voters think they know these 2.
Yeah.
And they don't, I'm overgeneralizing, so please don't, for somebody out there, John King said this, but most people don't want this rematch, right? I think a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans, and a lot of people in the middle are like, really? Can't we have a different choice here? But I do think it's troubling for the president if you're the incumbent president. We had 3 two-term presidencies. We had Clinton, Bush, and Obama, both 2 terms. Then you had the 1-term president in Trump. The country's in a foul mood. It's still the pandemic mood, with the inflation mood, with the economic uncertainty mood, with dysfunction in government on top of that, with nobody getting what they want from their government right now, whether you're a conservative who wants, tougher immigration policies or less spending, or you're a liberal who wants, to give status to the 11 million people and you want more government spending. Nobody's getting what they want right now because this town is broken and frankly near paralyzed. And so I think the country's really grumpy. And I don't know that you want to be the guy in charge when the country is in such a funk. Biden's hope is that people then look at another, assuming it's Biden and Trump, and they say, well, we, rather somebody new, but we're not going back to that guy. And they think, with younger people, the suburbs, the Biden coalition, if you will, that won in 2020, they can do it again. But the numbers tell you, yes, you're right, it's early, but the numbers tell you that this is a very iffy proposition for the president right now. And that Trump, I think, is stronger than a lot of people thought he would be. And I'll only add to that, the E. Jean Carroll battery and defamation trial jury is deliberating right now. We're waiting for the Georgia grand jury. We're waiting for the special counsel. There are a lot of things between now and even Iowa and New Hampshire that could intervene and change what people think about Trump. But at the moment, after months and months of hardship among Republicans, which is the only audience that matters to President Trump, former President Trump at the moment he's going up. He's not plateauing, he's not going down. It's sort of the counterintuitive anti-gravity of Trump politics at the moment.
We're talking with John King from CNN. We're going to keep talking to him after this quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We'll be right back. We're broadcasting from the Boston Public Library.
You know that interview you just heard? Only on Boston Public Radio can you hear conversations like that every day, commercial-free. Instead, we ask you to step up and show your support every now and then. So pitch in at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Okay, so here's the deal. In 25 minutes, the enticement, as Marjorie calls it, of the day, a one-year digital subscription to the New York Times, the Washington Post, disappears. So if you're into that, it's only $10 a month, which I think is a pretty good deal. You not only get something great, but you support something that I consider to be pretty great, what is done here at GBH News. You go to gbhnews.org or you call 888-897-9424. I want to tell you, we get reports on the giving. We all see the beautiful comments that some of you make when you do give. I can't tell you how much it means to the spirit of people who work really hard in this building. Not only the on-air people, but the people behind the scenes who don't get nearly the play that people like Marjorie and me do. But it's sort of your vote of affirmation for the work we do. So it's not just about balancing budgets. It's also about saying you care and respect what we do, which means everything to us. So I thank you all at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, if you want to add your name to that list.
You know, we talk with Charlie Sennett all the time about reporting the business in general. He's big on Report for America. These young journalists go out to these towns that have a dearth of journalists there. Think about, and I'm biased, I like the New York Times, but think about what they've done in Ukraine. Think about what the Associated Press has done in Ukraine. People, photographers and reporters are risking their lives. Guys from CNN, women from CNN are risking their lives. This is really hard work, and it just seems to me we don't appreciate the hard work that reporters do. I'm biased there. I used to be one, but it is really hard work to get the stories and present them with the facts right in a limited amount of time. That's what the Washington Post and New York Times are all about. So for $10 a month, you can get a subscription to two of the finest newspapers still around. Those two, the Wall Street Journal is a great newspaper too, more conservative, obviously, and owned by Rupert Murdoch, which is interesting. So he leaves it alone in a way that a lot of people were worried he wouldn't, but he has. But in any case, right now we're not talking about the Wall Street Journal. We're talking about either the Washington Post or the New York Times. For $10 a month as a sustaining member, you can get that digital subscription for an entire year, and it'll be well worth it. And as Jim said, we do appreciate very much people that listen. We do appreciate that we have a great staff behind us that helps us prepare this show every day and has to listen to Jim's complaints and all that every morning about what's
Where do you
wrong.
else hear John King on the radio every single Tuesday afternoon too, by the way, which a lot of people really love. It's
well,
a big
Dorchester
deal.
Boy, people are very excited about John King. So anyway, we hope all or some of those things will entice you to join to subscribe or give a donation is what I should be saying here. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie. And as we said, John King was generous enough, as he always is, from CNN to give us a little extra time today since we're in pledge. You know, John, I want to stay on this poll thing for a minute. Marjorie and I talked to listeners about it on the air, I think, yesterday. We talked a lot about it off the air. And this is a guy who avoided tens of millions of dollars in taxes when ordinary people can't do that. Whose family, this is me talking, corruptly benefited financially from Donald Trump's presidency, who acknowledges that he sexually assaulted women because he's a star, as he said in that deposition, and he may be found to have defamed and raped E. Jean Carroll. Criminality. He's been indicted for 36 felonies with more to come. Disseminated deadly information, homicidal information about a pandemic that killed 1.1 million people. I'm hoping you can tell me that the fact that 44% of the American people who you've studied closely for decades would vote for him is unique to Donald Trump and is not going to survive his presence in American politics. Do you believe that, I hope, or no?
I don't think we know the answer to that question. Is the disillusionment and the disaffection of that group of people, it was not unique to him. He tapped into it and he accelerated it. He may have put it on steroids, if you will. But that had to exist, that deep disillusionment, disaffection, discontent, in some cases disgust and distrust of Washington and politics is the only way Donald Trump won in the first place. Yeah. And he just barely lost in 2020. Yeah, that's true. So does that fade if and when he fades, whether that's he loses in this next election or whether he gets elected to another term and then can't run again after that? I don't know the answer to that. Do I think some of it is unique to Donald Trump because he is good is the wrong word, but he is effective at stoking the grievances, at keeping the loyalty, because he plays the grievance politics so well and, again, smartly, put that in air quotes, in a cynical way. Is there anybody else who could do what he does, I guess, is the question. We have not seen that person, but that doesn't mean that we won't meet that person down the road. And it doesn't mean that a lot of people, Jim and Marjorie, don't study what he does. As reprehensible as a lot of it is, there are people who study what he does because he won the presidency of the United States. He had a hostile takeover of a major political party. He still leads that political party, even though after January 6th and his loss in the 2020 election, that they thought he would fade away. And so trust me, people are studying that who might not have great intentions, but who want to win. So I don't think we know. I don't think we know what comes next. And if we get a Biden-Trump rematch, we're not going to know the answer for a while.
Well, I've been reading as much as I can about the E. Jean Carroll trial. She, of course, is the woman that's suing for defamation and for rape. It's a civil case, not a criminal case. I'm not there. There's no camera, so I can't really see her. But from what I've read, she's been a very impressive witness. It's been a very impressive case. Donald Trump has not shown up. The jury saw this long deposition in which the former president declared that stars like himself, he considered himself a star, can grab women by the whatevers. They've been doing it for a million years, whether fortunately or unfortunately. But I assume that if he loses in this case, that's not really going to matter either because you say a lot of his supporters won't know about it, or they won't, if they do know about it, they might not care.
He will appeal it, number one, if he loses that case. It's a liable, not liable, not a guilty, not guilty, because it's a civil case. So does the jury find him liable? And then the jury, if they do find him liable, will set a monetary award, and then Trump will appeal. Again, we've had this counterintuitive where he says it's a witch hunt. He says people are out to get him. People are making up story, in her case, making up a false accusation to try to hurt him politically. And we have seen that has actually rallied his support in the Republican polls. Connect this to the point Jim was making earlier about, the funk of the country. Right now, President Biden takes the bulk of that, the 2x4 to the head, if you will, of that, because he's the guy in charge. Yeah. And a lot of people have said, they don't want to pay attention to the Trump circus. They thought they were rid of it. If you're in the Biden White House, your hope is if he's the nominee, then it's a choice again. It's not just what do you think of your day-to-day life, and you take that out on the president if your answer is negative. It's now you have to make a choice. Who's in the job for the next 4 years? And they do believe that however this trial turns out, that Trump deposition, just reprehensible, the things he says about what he can do, what he can get away with, what stars can get away with. E. Jean Carroll's not my type. I'm quoting him, please. This is not John King talking. If you just watch that deposition, you just cringe. Yeah. And the Biden team hopes that, suburban women, independents, the people who believe that bleach is not the answer to COVID, younger voters who want action on the climate, who might not think Biden has done enough, but at least he's done something. They think that coalition comes back together if that's the choice again. That's a long ways off. So in the meantime, we wait for the jury to come in, and we will see if yet again, no matter what the headlines say negative about Trump, it somehow ends up being a benefit in the short term with Republicans. We'll see.
We only have a minute left to one more break, John. And again, thanks for your extra time today. Tomorrow night, there's a CNN town hall with Donald Trump. A lot of blowback, criticism of the station. You shouldn't give him an audience. I am not in that camp. While I am no fan of this president, so as of the moment, he's the front runner on the Republican side. He's the leader in the Washington Post ABC News poll. Maybe there'll be easy questions from the audience, but your colleague Caitlin Collins, I assume, is going to do follow-up. I'd prefer to see him answering questions on a legitimate news station than hiding out on Fox News or Newsmax. Was there dissent in the ranks without, violating whatever confidence is about that decision?
There were very candid conversations about it, and I was part of those conversations, and I'm with you. Not that I don't have my own doubts about this. The guy tried to steal a country.
Right.
The guy had said some reprehensible things. He is, however, the overwhelmingly formidable frontrunner for the Republican nomination. And at this moment, likely to be the candidate for the President of the United States. You have to cover him. You simply have to. That sets a high bar for us. Caitlin Collins is awesome. She knows him well. She's a great reporter. She's a rising star. You have voters in the room who get to vote in the New Hampshire primary. It was not an easy decision, Jim, but I just believe in this area. This is our job. This is our job. We need to cover the candidates for major office, and we need to subject them to lowercase c, critical scrutiny, tough questions, not with a bias, just tough, fair questions. I know Caitlin, and I've spent enough time in New Hampshire. I think this will be some evidence, though, of how strong he is, and we'll see how that plays out. Before you kick me off, as this sustaining member, Johnny from Dorchester, wants to say, find $1 or 10 to give. It helps. These are great people.
Well, you're a pretty great guy, too, John.
I think he's coming back.
Oh, he is?
I hope,
you're coming back for 2 more minutes.
Oh, then I get to do it again.
You can do it again. We got to take a break.
Yeah, John King. We're speaking with John
Thank
King
you,
from
John.
CNN. We're going to keep talking to him after this quick break. We're going to get through it as fast as we can to get back to John King. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
You count on Boston Public Radio for context, analysis, and insight. And Boston Public Radio counts on you. Pitch in and keep the conversation going. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
Again, I tell you all the time, this is the only time of the year we read nice things about us. These are huge. Brian and Hudson, thank you, Jim and Marjorie, for teaching me to laugh into the abyss. Phyllis in Deerfield, New Hampshire, we listen to this over any other station. We love it. Sharon in West Newbury, Jim and Marjorie make my 3-hour drives to and from Vermont a pleasure. Can't live without GBH. Mimi from South Weymouth. We thank you all for your generous contributions and for your generous praise for what all of us do here at GBH.
Yeah, and we have another 15 or 14 minutes left in our show. That means you have another 14 minutes if you want to get a digital subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times, and we would really appreciate it. What that entails is a $10 a month contribution to GBH. You can give it $120 all at once, but obviously $10 a month is a lot easier on your wallet, and you will get that digital subscription. The deadline is 2 o'clock today, so if you want that subscription, this is the time to do it. We do appreciate the people that listen to us and send these nice messages. It makes you feel really good to get these nice messages from people. And we have a lot of people that talk about our guests, Jim. They love John King, they love Juliet Kayyem, they love Cy Montgomery, they love Art Kaplan, our medical guy. I mean, we have a great roundup of guests, and it starts to become like a little familiar family. You know, I say radio is very intimate. It's much more intimate than TV or newspapers, so you feel like you know people, and that's kind of a neat thing about it. So the number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. 13 minutes left if you want to get that subscription, digital subscription, I should say, to the New York Times, the Washington Post.
Only a couple of days left in this drive, and as Marjorie says all the time, I want to thank you, by the way. You've only mentioned the virility pills that I did not hawk on the other radio station once.
You're a new man.
But I'll tell you, I wouldn't say that at all, actually, unfortunately. But as back on the topic at hand, commercials are pretty horrible things in commercial radio. We used to sit there looking at each other like, is this ever going to end? And that's one of the great luxuries of many we have here. We can do long form interviews. I don't think commercial radio, you can spend 25 minutes talking to John King from CNN. I know you can't. This is a special place. We're really lucky to work here, and we're really lucky to have listeners like you who are so generous in your support. We hope if you haven't given yet, you will. The number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. One last segment with John King, who's been really generous with his time from CNN.
Well, John, we figured we'd lighten things up a little bit in this last segment. We're a little nervous here in Boston. The Celtics, series is 2-2 after like a heartbreaker the other night. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
Literally losing by a millisecond.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the shot. Oh, wow.
3-pointer, Marcus Smart. It was too late, right? Too late.
As I learned back in Dorchester, Marjorie, this is why they brew beer. When you watch a game like that. Look, they're being tested here, but all of these series in the NBA in the playoffs so far have been good series and longer series. Everyone's going to be, whoever makes the finals is going to be exhausted. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist looking for a win tonight. And think of where we started the season, Mr. Phillies fan. The Red Sox are playing pretty well at the moment, so you have to be an optimist.
Yeah, I am a Phillies fan. It doesn't even matter if they lose, John. I think I'm like you with Philadelphia. They're my team to my dying day. They're in your genes, and that's the way it is. And obviously, they've had a good run. John, you're a generous soul. We love you, and thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. CNN's John King.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, John King. And a lot of our listeners, when they text to us, they're talking about how much they love listening to John King from Dorchester. We are almost done. You have something you want to say?
We rarely do shout outs for people, but sitting in the front row is a guy by the name of Tim Bowers. We just learned he's away to college in Dublin. He's home on vacation, sitting there, obviously a fan of the show. He came to see it in person. Get this, Marjorie. Is this really true? You listen every night in Dublin? Let's hear it for Tim Bowers.
There you go.
It's great to meet you, Tim.
Thank you very, very much, Tim.
That really is pretty good.
Okay, thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public.
I think you better find something else to do in Dublin, if you know what I mean.
I think so. Well, I'm grateful. Keep listening to us in Dublin. We like that. And thank you to the people who came down to the Boston Public Library today.
Thank you all for coming.
Tomorrow
really
we're going to be joined by our NYU medical ethicist Art Kaplan, GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen about what's going on in the arts around town, environmentalist Bill McKibben, and naturalist and author Simon Montgomery. We're going to talk about the Westminster Dog Show with her.
You listen or visit our website, and today we're asking you to put something back in by making a contribution to GBH. Listener support is GBH's most important source of income. The money you give ensures GBH delivers the news, information, and entertainment that you want whenever you want it. So please give now at gbhnews.org or call us at 888-897-9424. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cohen. He's Zach Finn.
Support GBH at $10 a month and choose an annual online subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times as a thank you gift. And this offer is just up for 8 more minutes. You got 8 more minutes or until 2 o'clock. Got to get that call started now. Support GBH again. Sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month or give $120 all at once and ask for the Washington Post or the New York Times when you do. Already a subscriber? Absolutely no problem. You can give it as a gift. The deadline again, though, is coming up at 2 p.m. After that, it will be gone for the rest of the drive, so got to get that call started now. Please give gbhnews.org or give us a call, 888-897-9424.
Every day, GBH uses radio for the greater good, and that's to deliver trustworthy news, cultural coverage, and to amplify diverse voices. Every day, GBH is here to serve and inform you with the facts, so now we're asking for your financial support during this membership drive to keep this independent source for trustworthy news on the air. Easy to do online. Look for the donate button at gbhnews.org or call us 888-897-9424.
And we're looking for 6 people to give in the next 6 minutes. That's 6 and 6, folks. I know we can do it. How about giving $10, maybe $15 a month? Please help keep the news source you trust on the radio by giving right now. Again, that's 6 minutes to get 6 more contributions. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Yeah, 6 minutes left to go. 6 minutes to pick up either your choice, the Washington Post or the New York Times. It's an annual online subscription, $10 a month on our Sustainer plan, or a one-time gift of $120. Take your pick. Again, the Washington Post or the New York Times. Maybe you have a subscription to both. Well, it makes a great gift for that graduate or Mother's Day or Father's Day or just someone you love who needs to know, be more informed with the news. It's a great offer. Again, $10 a month, an annual online subscription, ad-free, I might add. Again, with your support, $10 a month at 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
You listen to GBH throughout the year, so why not spread your membership out the same way by signing up as a sustaining member? You make a reoccurring monthly contribution from your bank account or credit card, so your contribution keeps giving all year long, and it only takes 2 minutes to set up. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And covering the news, is expensive. It just gets more expensive as the news becomes more complex and intense. GBH pays NPR more than $250,000 each quarter to help cover those expenses. So when you make your contribution right now, you'll be doing your part to help GBH and NPR cover the news in the way that you expect. 888-897-9424, online at gbhnews.org.
And again, support GBH at $10 a month and choose an annual online subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times. We are down to 4 minutes almost here. And then it is gone for the rest of the drive. So you got to get that call started, want to act fast. Support GBH by signing up as a sustaining member at $10 a month, or give it $120 all at once, and ask for the Washington Post or the New York Times when you do. The deadline, again, 4 minutes away, coming up at 2 o'clock. After that, it will be gone for the rest of the drive. So please give online, gbhnews.org, or give us a call, 888-897-9424.
Big shout out to Claire in Wakefield, Rhode Island, also Ellen in Norwood, and let's see, my refresh just made me lose my place. And also Richard in Malden, our newest member to the GBH family. Richard writes to us, I really appreciate the balanced covering of the news. Richard, thank you so much for your support, and everyone else who's joined us. We have a goal now, just 3 more contributions to go in the next, about 3.5 minutes. We hope you'll do your part, put value on all your listening, give as generously as your budget allows. Again, 3 more contributions in the next 3 minutes. 888-897-9424, online at gbhnews.org.
GBH continues to expand its news coverage because of support from listeners like you. In-depth reporting and detailed analysis matters so much to our members that are willing to make a financial contribution to ensure this important service, and it ensures that it continues to grow. Their support matters, and so does yours. So please take a minute now to give and join your fellow GBH listeners in their support. It's an investment that will pay big dividends in what you hear every single day. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All right, this is it. Last call to get in on the annual online subscription for the Washington Post or the New York Times. Support your BPR listening and pick up this great offer, $10 a month on our Sustainer plan, or a one-time gift of $120. Get your call started now. You can get in on this offer. It goes away at 2 o'clock, so again, time rapidly running out. We hope you'll take advantage of this special offer. Take your pick, the Washington Post or the New York Times. Once again, $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120. 888-897-9424, or make your contribution securely online. Again, look for the donate button when you join us at gbhnews.org, and thank you.